I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to our broadcast about GCR, the big lie. And why do we call it GCR, the big lie? It's because the GCR, as we have known it, is a lie. It's not what we were told. Though what is happening is there is going to be a global currency reset, GCR, but not in the way that we've been sold. And I'll make a brief explanation about this, and then we're going to roll into a couple of things here. Now, Stephen Rowe Tank is also going to be joining us about 10 minutes in. So he actually sent me over the letter that Kim had given to Trump about sovereignty, and we'll go over that, as well as another article. But anyway, we will get into that in a bit. But first, let me really just go into why we're in the situation we're in. First, the world runs on a financial system that is backed by nothing, but it was created originally with something, and those somethings were pulled away and stored in away from all the people. It was purposely designed to extract every asset on the planet and then put it into the hands of one, a global monarch. So that plan has been executed all the way to the point where everything was, taken out of the system. Now, people in the world were saying, well, where's all the money? Why can't we do things? Oh, we're having a reset. This is the bill of goods that was sold. We have to have a reset. So you're going to be involved in resetting it. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to take the monies, such as the Iraqi dinar and the Zimbabwe dollar, and we're going to take the value that says it's here in the very small pennies of value, and we're going to move it up into millions of dollars. Crazy numbers. And as a result, the people around the world in power, from leaders of countries to military generals to admirals to people throughout governments, people in charge of departments, got in on it. He said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be very wealthy after we do a reset. After everything has been revalued, we're set." So this is the plan, right, as been stated to us. And I got involved back in 2014 in regards to the historical assets, meaning bonds. At the time, everyone originally was saying, well, oh, the super Pacellis or the farmer bonds. So these are having to do with, say railways or other sorts of things where the bonds were issued to complete a project, and then there was supposed to be interest paid over time. A lot of these bonds are pretty pieces of paper that were given out with 30 years to be repaid in gold, interest in gold. And when they go to redeem them, there's claims of being fraud and not the correct ones. And anyway, they were never redeemed, and it caused a basic problem in the world where people were saying, well, I'm not going to do that again. And so then you have a standoff, and mostly this was between the East and the West. Divide and conquer is also part of the overall agenda, because together we are strong. So we need to keep in mind that if we had a GCR, would this not divide the people as presented? Yes, everyone with a good heart was to go out and start spending and make those projects happen. But is it really then two classes, rich and poor? Even if there was 5 million people that had these currencies and things that were involved, and they were all revalued, and every one of them became super wealthy, doesn't that become two different classes in the world? So, yeah, a lot of people would have jobs, and everything would be moving on, and people would have comfortable lives. But again, we would be in the same situation. two classes. What we have to realize, though, is that there was a background story that was hidden from everybody, and that has to do with the people who actually put this plan in place, and that those people really wanted to create another system of slavery that was more intense than this one. And in this new system, there would be, two classes, just the rich and the poor. And the people working for the rich were originally, all the people that you and the GCR crowd that were out there with your plans and getting people jobs, things. That's wonderful. And there would be a time of plenty. And maybe that lasted for a generation. But over time, as the cabal has shown, they extract wealth. They extract it from the lowest and move it up. And then when there's no more left at the very lowest level, they go to the next level above that, next, until there's nothing left. The system cannibalizes itself and leaves all the assets under one. And that was successful. Congratulations, you won the game of Monopoly. Next game, the game of abundance, is what we're going to do here. So how do we get there? How do we get to abundance? Well, one, by miracle, we have Kim, who is in position as the trustee over the trust, is now ready to change the situation and move those assets back into the hands of the people and to the governments. So a miracle in itself. We're now ready to do a GCR, but just not the GCR that everyone's been talking about. We're ready to basically participate in receiving funds for projects. So all your projects you're working on, you can still get them done. But the money is not coming from the cabal. They don't have it. And they were removed. So now it's time for us all to now just wake up to what is going on. So part of this that Kim has been laying out to give back the assets to the people and the governments is to restore sovereignty to the countries and to the people. And so I'm going to go over the letter that was basically granting the sovereignty back to the United States that was sent from Kim to Trump. Go ahead and line that up one moment here. Let's see. Well, I think I have to see. I have it inside inside Telegram, and I gotta move it out. 1 second. Here we go. All right, we've got it now. I'm gonna blow this up before we zoom in. Okay, share my screen. There we go. So this is the letter. So I'm just going to go through and read this. Manna World Holding Trust, Master Country Code Registration, FMCA 777-888-777-888-9999, UN 04050, and then 313-466-0718. A lot of numbers there. All right. This day, Sunday, the 27th of January, 2018. So now this is over a year ago. The United States of America, attention President Donald J. Trump. We, Manna World Holding Trust, declare Manna World Holding Trust recognizes the expiration of the treaty agreements between various aliases the trust has had in the past, such as unknown country, crown, etc. Further, the trust declares, as of the expiration of said treaties, the United States of America is a sovereignty unto itself with no infringement on its sovereign rights by any other nation to include, but not limited, the Manna World Holding Trust. All of the former aliases, trust's former trustees, custodians, corporations, and comptrollers. Full sovereignty rights include, but not limited to, the right to sovereign territory, mineral rights, to hold, operate embassies, to hold and operate central banks, to hold and operate military and intelligence forces, etc., without any other sovereign monarch influences. Further, the trust recognizes the United States of America as an equal sovereign entity. Shall it desire to enter into any further treaties to include the return of any of its properties currently held by a separate treaty, both parties recognize each other to be a sovereign entity unto themselves with no obligation except to its citizens. Manna World Holding Trust formally relinquishes all rights, property deeds, and custodianship of property within the United States as the District of Columbia, also known as Washington, D.C., and any and all governing bodies claimed therein formally governed by prior liaisons, trustees, and custodians of Manna World Holding Trust since 1864. Manna World Holding Trust formally acknowledges its agreements with the corporation formed in 1912, known as the Federal Reserve, signed as an infinite agreement under international corporate law. The term is 99 years. Therefore, the expiration of the funding agreement between Manna World Holding Trust, be it by any former name, expired June 15th, 2011. Further, its service agreement with the United States of America expired June 15th, 2012. Manna World Holding Trust confirms the corporation known as the Federal Reserve is a corporation owned wholly by Manna World Holding Trust. Manna World Holding Trust, as of this day, shall transfer all ownership rights fully to the United States of America, to include its right to print paper currency and any and all future income and any past income earned as of the 15th of June, 2012, any and all debts owed to it by the United States, any and all real property owned by the corporation. Manna World Holding Trust agrees to work together with you and your appointed representative to return any other properties the trust may hold on benefit of the United States, to include any dividends now due against any assets it may have pledged in the past. Please be advised, Manna World Holding Trust consolidation assets and restructuring began on 5th of September 2012 and was completed 1st of February 2016. As of the 28th of September 2012, I am the sole custodian, trustee, principal, decision maker, decision making party, and owner. This can be verified through any intelligence report referencing the above listed country code. Any former trustee from any nation, to include but not limited to China, UK, USA, have held no power over the trust since 2012, when they were received for duty due to multiple breaches of contract. Any other nation, society, order, or organization does not include my sole decision-making capabilities in any way, nor do I have any superiors. I am not a member of any aforementioned organization. I am completely of my own cognizance. This document is valid as a treaty between both sovereigns and is legally binding under international law from this day forward. Signed and acknowledged on the 27th day of January 2017. Miss Kimberly Ann Gagoin, trustee, custodian, principal, and acting head of state of Manna World Holding Trust. FMC A777-888-777-888-9999. There we go. Well, thank you, Kim. Thank you for that. This was wonderful to have our sovereignty restored, since everything that is under USA Incorporated was under another corporation. Anything that we were referring to as United States as a country was really just a corporation. So they even trademarked those back at that time in the 1860s, when they basically did this flim-flam and substitute a new constitution, or almost identical except for the 13th Amendment. They got rid of the titles of nobility because they really didn't like that attorneys couldn't be in the government, in the legislative branch or the judicial branch. I'm sorry, or the executive branch. They could be in the judicial branch because separation of powers. But also the titles of nobility meant that they were under another superior. They were beholden to a foreign monarch. So a title nobility meant that you were not, for the benefit of the country, the republic. You were under the influence of a foreign leader. So thus you could not be part of the government. Of course, they didn't like that. So they got rid of that. So this is a very big step, and also one of the steps that needs to take place for countries to hold their own territory, to hold the land. They have to not be a corporation. This is most people in the governments would not even realize that they are part of a corporation. You ask, are you part of the United Nations? And they'll say, yes. Do you know you have to be, a corporation under a corporation? It's a subsidiary corporation. They have no concept of it because it's all been hidden. It's done through, the small print in a contract. These attorneys, they just create a scenario and they say, this is what it means, but that's not what it says. Right? And they basically influence us away from our sovereignty, away from our rights, away from everything. So this is why the Total Titles of Nobility Act was put into place. So it also, I believe, there's also part about honorary. So if you were honorary something or the other, also this is also excluded. So it was fascinating. You can read it. It was ratified by the states. It took some time because of the Civil War to get all the ratification done, but it was eventually done, and this was part of states' constitutions where you could actually find it. So they didn't stamp it out when they barged in and burnt down Congress. When the British burnt down the Congress, and they thought they'd burn down all the documents, and then no more Titles of Nobility Act. No, it actually had made it out into the states, and the states had printed these, and you can find them. So it's available for you to verify for yourself, and I really encourage you to really do that. I did. I took some time, and I went and I read it. Now, this was many years ago now, maybe not many, but maybe like 5-6 years ago. So it is something that you should go ahead and acquaint yourself with, to understand that if that is this Constitution, what is this one? What is that? Well, that's for the corporation, the USA Inc. So if you can accept that, you can understand that what we thought is a country growing up, though we're living on the land and we're considering ourselves Americans and under our Constitution, and we're living that way to the best of our ability, most of us. But in the reality of the structure of legal entities, it does not show that. Looks like Galactic Unicorn is now joining us. Welcome, Galactic Unicorn from Space Command. Space Command to Galactic Unicorn.
You know, I just thought, hey, let me try to change this picture quick or change my thing.
You did change the picture. That's a really great picture of a Galactic Unicorn.
Oh yeah, did it come out? That's my daughter's choice. Yeah, it's perfect. Okay. And then I tried to change back to my regular account and it would not let me. I was like, okay, no problem. We'll worry about that later.
It's okay. You're incognito.
Yeah, that is exactly how I would describe myself. Someone who's trying to keep a low profile.
Yes, me too. This is secret. This is private.
Yeah, our secret broadcast.
Do not share this link. Whatever you do. Now the link's going to go across the world. We're going to have 1 million subscribers by the end of the day. If I say not to do something, right, then everyone, we got to do this.
Yeah, this particular broadcast is just for you people here. No one else should know about it. Yeah.
Well, I did go through and I read on the air the sovereignty that was granted by Kim to the United States of America, that letter. Right. So we went through that. And
all right.
And I said, this is the step that we need to take in order for us to move into sovereignty to accept the assets. I mean, how can a corporation accept the asset? We don't want to give it back into the corporation, the enslavement system, right?
That's right.
And I was just pointing out when you came on that that the way for you to prove it yourself that there is a corporation. You know, one easy way to point it out is that there is a Titles of Nobility Act that was put into place that prevented attorneys from being inside the legislative body, being inside Congress, because they're beholden to a foreign king. So they wanted to get rid of that. So now you can actually see both constitutions are available because it was ratified and put out in the states, and the states reprinted the Constitution with the original 13th Amendment with the titles of nobility in it. And then you'll find a completely other one in the history books, and you'll find at gift shops, where it has about slavery, about ending slavery as a 13th Amendment. Well, why is there two? Why is there two? That's what you have to answer for yourself, and to realize that the one that has to deal with the slavery, which is, dividing up the slaves into what you need to, how many of you need to make one vote? I forgot what it is.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, right. They don't know. They weighted them. I think it's like two.
Yeah, you're right.
Something like that, or
thirds.
Yeah,
thirds of a person.
So you have 2/3 of a vote. You're not quite there. You just got, that's the oddest thing, right? That's what they replaced it with. We're ending slavery almost.
Yeah, it's funny when you hear something like that, right? I mean, it's like, how do we really hide that we're gonna screw everybody over? Let's make something that's really controversial and really demoralizing. We'll take all these human beings that we have enslaved, and we'll make them 2/3 of a person. Which, to be honest, that would apply to every one of us, really. Every one of us is, by their definitions, is only 2/3 of what they are. That's what it really means.
Yeah. Well, I think that they think less of us than that, but I guess.
See, and now look, and that's what got us in trouble. See, they come out and say things, and we think, well, wow, they think of us as 2/3 as them. they have to spin it so it's positive, because that's how we are. Because people are naturally so encouraging, right? We'll take something terrible, which we do this all the time. I'm a believer in this, but it's true though. We'll take something even when someone's really doing something awful. You know what? I think we got to stop that, Dan. I think it all comes down to the media. I think the biggest move in everything, the first thing, is to launch a truly authentic media outlet that
Yeah.
represents the truth in broadcasting at all times.
Well, that's kind of the attempt that I'm trying to make for the QAnon side of things with the where we go all dot love, which is just the initials, but is to be kind of like a way where I can list out the channels and list out the alternative media, and these are the news are, and then organize it in a way that kind of putting it to levels, like and where you can actually do a level one red pill, right? And you can just understand the basics of what that there is a the bureaucracy of the government is preventing things from happening. So this is a very simple concept people can absorb, right? If you're very much been in the blue pill side. So, but then if we make it deeper, but the articles of these things that the alternative media putting out, I will put it all there, so it will kind of like be like a TV guide of the past, right? But it's all on one on a website, and the video links are there, and you can look through it and see where you want to watch and what level can you watch at. So,
I think that's a great. I mean, I love that. I love the concept, right, of like easing people into, like a more holistic view, or more. Well, actually, I mean, in the reality, if we're going to just be straight about it, I'd like to just get away from pandering to everybody. It's like, okay, we're going to ease you into the truth. So what we're going to do first is we want you to listen to this, because they're telling some of the truth based on their very limited information, and they have a follower. They have a bunch of people follow them, right? So they would be like a typical church, let's say, right, where you have a pastor who the congregation is paying their salary. So because they're paying their salary, the pastor, still a man of God, right? At least in principle, he wants to get out a message. So what he'll do is he'll only pander to his audience a little bit, right? He'll only change things a little bit. Even when he knows the truth, though, he's got to figure out how to ease them into that reality. But in the meantime, he's going to say things that make them, want to come back and give money, which is a combination of guilt and then, that's how you start it, right? You start by guilt, and then you follow up with compliments, right? And that's how you really work that audience. So that would be like, you should have it like be the first level, be the public church level, because by the time you get to the end, right, you have like the absolute hardcore fanatic level, right, which is going to be like the, like I guess like militant Islam, right, where they're just, I mean, which is just just a random example, who knows, but all these different things, they've just perverted everything about what is
well,
natural.
I've got an example for you: the Jesuit order.
That is the extreme, right? That's like when you're all in, right?
Not just all in. You've joined the military, and you're on missions to kill and assassinate and poison and manipulate.
Oh my gosh, Dan, that would be like, if you want to read something tonight, we should go through the Jesuit oath. Holy I mean, definitely towards the end of the show, by the way. But like, we should go through the Jesuit oath, because that is one of those things that will change the way people see their whole life. Because
I'd like to end it on an upbeat note, not.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Not
To go from TUI one night, and we're like changing the world, to like, and the Jesuit order,
Yeah.
which is like the most ominous religion. The religious, right?
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, well, that's stated that way, But you mentioned TUI. I had when we ended the show. I was saying goodbye to TUI, and it turned into a 20-minute conversation. Yeah, I was still recording, so I was going to put that up. I asked TUI first, so I'll post that later today. Which was just an additional 20 minutes with TUI, and it was good stuff. I even later had another conversation with TUI hours later, and he'll probably come on. I have to give him the link for it, but we talked about. I was explaining to him an abundance-based economy, and while I'm talking to him, you know, he's realizing that what I'm explaining to him is the same thing that his grandfather put into place with a sharing system with money. And it was very successful, and many people were getting rich with this sharing system. But and while I explained, he says, "Yeah, my grandfather did this, and it sounds just like what you're explaining." Yeah, and he said, but we don't know how it worked." They know what happened. They
I
understand the
love it.
process. But when he died, it ended because it was a manual system, and so it just kind of went with him. But then I explained to him the reason why his grandfather's system worked. And he said, "Oh, now I'm not going to be able to sleep." Because I've had a lot of thing, and I guess we're just on the same wavelength, right? So we're all synchronizing to do this same thing in the world. So Tui is looking at his grandfather's system for sharing to create abundance. And I've been focused on creating abundance-based currency with TBC coin, Kringle coin, and then also basically expand it to a world economy. So this is something that we're all syncing up to, and of course it seems like Kim's all about abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
So
I have. It's funny. I'm so allergic to any term that's become mainstream that I understand abundance mind frame, which I'm totally for, of course. But I'm just so allergic to these things because the way they pervert them all the time. They turn them into something totally the opposite.
I trademarked it every which way. No, I just don't.
Did you really? I mean, wow.
No.
Which it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't be surprise me if you invented the term. I mean,
Yeah, no.
one time when I went back in time and I was talking to Thomas Edison, I would not be surprised by any experience you've had.
No, it was Benjamin Franklin, but that's another story. We'll get into
Of
that
course, another time,
another,
perhaps.
another time, perhaps. I'm back from the future, and then before that, I was in the past. But weren't we all?
Weren't we all? That is the truth, actually. Yeah. Oh man.
But
So
but anyway, a fascinating thing how Tui has been expressing this, and how we're syncing up on this particular topic. And I'll go through and explain why Tui's system works as well. But we'll wait for him to come on and that. And but let's cover what we can cover for now. Let's do our update. We're already in 35 minutes into our show here, so let's give an update. If you
yeah, I can tell you that the current state of the union that what I know about is that the governments are fully aware at this point that the RV did not happen. So they have been, yeah. Well, this is great because usually it takes them 3 to 5 days to catch on, and so that means that the governments are, on top of this lickety split. What's great is they have been in meetings all weekend long, and we are currently awaiting their response, which it really does not matter at this point. Kim has created the entire system to safely move money for everyone, and I expect that to begin literally at any moment. Um, what is interesting though is obviously because you have these back, backup financial servers, and the backup financial servers would be, you would think, in case there was a crash of the system in any way, that they would be very important, right? That you'd want to have a backup server because that's an easy way to kind of steal money. I mean, not easy, but if it were to happen, it would be a easy way to steal money if you didn't have a backup. So, but they are corrupted, so they represent a potential hazard. So, if the governments were to, I don't know, do their job and enforce laws, possibly oversee these things, it would be a lot easier to successfully get rid of the scourge of humanity, which has been enslaving everyone, including them, right now. So I do think that we want the governments to come on board actually represent the people. I want to encourage all of them out there. Hey, listen, you've been getting a paycheck for a long time. I think it'd be awesome if you did your job today and enforced the laws. Now, keeping in mind, here's what I would prefer, and I am strongly recommending to Kim, is that the money should come into the people first, because the government draws their power from the governed. Now, if the government is the first one to have the power, all they do is devour the power from the governed.
Yeah.
And the problem is that we, as the people, as far as I know, I never in my lifetime have I ever thought that we were the ones in power. We have been subjected to all types of things at the what would seem like at the behest of the government, when in reality it's not really, the actual, um, like you're pointing out, like Dan's pointing out here today, we've been subject to the corporation. We were all enslaved by the corporation because they changed and modified and perverted the laws so that they could manipulate them and use them for the deep state, the Illuminati, the cabal, all those different organizations. So where we're at right now is that those negotiations are taking place, and what I would say right now is what I think is essential in this world that we are creating is that the people need a seat at the table. And these officials in every government in the world, the fact that they were able to negotiate terms that said, we will give you 2 more weeks to implement your global currency reset system, which they know, and they do know because they heard the threats. They know the depopulation agenda. They are not ignorant of this fact. They know that the agenda includes depopulating the humans of the planet. They know that. They know it means a 90% reduction in the human population. And they know that it is based on fabricated research for a ridiculous, you know, uh, climate change psyops that they're running. They all know it. And if they don't know it, they are not fit to lead, anyways. If they do know it, they negotiated our death and our slavery through terrible terms. And after all that has been done, after all that has been seen, after all of this, if they don't know it, there's no way any of them are fit to lead, first of all. Secondly, if they do know it and they negotiate those terms, they're not fit to lead. So it doesn't matter which way you go. As far as I'm concerned, there's absolutely no way these governments should be representing the interests of the people,
Well,
because the
when I'm watching all these public debates, where they have the congressmen and there are all these people showing up in their suits, I imagine all of them wearing like fast food franchise hats.
yes,
So they're all part of a corporation, and they're trying to dictate. Just try it yourself. Just imagine them all wearing, a McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's or Taco
yep,
Bell. You know, and just keep that in your mind while they're talking, because this is just a corporation that is basically acting on corporate rules. McDonald's, you're going to cook your French fries for until the buzzer goes off, and you're going to remove them and out. If not, then you get demoted, right? So you don't follow the rules, you get penalized. So, just if we need to have our sovereignty, we need to have a real country, and we need to implement, what's necessary. I know that there was efforts made by patriotic Americans that basically decided to reoccupy the seats of the original republic. I know those events had occurred, and they all had their own legalities figured out on how it is real, how they can justify, and I think of two movements like that, and I'm sure that there are others, that I wasn't aware of. So, but something along these lines has to be done to where we reestablish the republic, and that it's not another disguised corporation. I think you said that the stuff running out of Reno for the GCR,
Yep.
the U.S. Treasury there is under another corporation in France.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So, hello, wake up. They're trying to do it again. You're in the same system. Wake up out of the matrix. You know, take the red pill, look around, see you're a battery, and don't plug yourself back in into a new corporate system. You know, listen. I'm not against business. I'm not saying businesses are bad. I'm just talking about the system of pretending corporations to be countries is not what we want.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you the biggest lie, right? The biggest lie that they have convinced people of is that if you are private with things, you are safe. And so what they do is they've convinced everyone to keep their secrets. And it's so easy if you when we all believe by staying quiet, by being private, by keeping a low profile, right? By staying under the radar, right? By not rocking the boat. All these nonsensical things that they have integrated into our culture and we think that's sound advice, right? And what happens with that is that now, you know, I make some money. I have a great idea, and I kept it all a secret. Nobody even knows I have money. I live like a pauper, and I have millions of dollars. And what do? They scoop in. They take every dime. They take my ideas. They take my invention. Then they go and take credit for it, and they make a big public show of it. I make a case that it's my idea, it's my invention, it's my money. And you know what they say? Who are you? And I'm the sucker who was trying to keep things quiet. That's who I am. The safest place for anybody is to be completely transparent. And I'm not talking about being boastful about what you have or, because all these things I understand there's a certain stigma attached to them. But you know what? If you are sharing your ideas, if you are truly for the people, and you keep that idea, I know an inventor right now, and he is the inventions, the things that he has already utilized, the things he's already created. He's already patented them, unfortunately, but he's already made them. And these ideas are so amazing. He's created a box that uses alternating current and direct current. And he can literally take this box, which has multiple sizes, but say it's roughly the size of like half the size of a refrigerator. And he can get as much electricity out of that as he needs because he can trick the electricity, is what he says. And he can take the electricity that goes in that box and he can trick it just to tell I need this much electricity. And this device will create it. However, he says infinitely for free forever, right? And he's got another device that they tested at a warehouse down in Texas, and they took some of the most toxic air pollutants known to man. That if someone would have walked into this warehouse, they would have died. They pumped the warehouse filled with toxins. They took a sample before they did it, and they put his device to purify the air in this box. In 15 minutes, 15 minutes, the quality of the air in the warehouse was higher. It was 10% higher than when it started. So that's unheard of. That's an amazing device. And then he's got something similar that works that way for water as well. Now imagine you've got three devices like that. Those are world-changing inventions. Those are things that will disrupt business, but they'll change the lives of the whole everyone on the planet. And they can be in production, in no time, right? And they're all being suppressed. And the reason why they're being suppressed is money. And we have the money to bring those out. So by suppressing us, every one of those government officials is making a decision not to make progress for you personally. And that includes any of the government officials who happen to be listening to this call. That includes you too.
Well,
That
I know that there are good guys in the government, but there are a lot fewer of them than we need. And uh, and 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 I think in this case we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have to replace everybody. Everybody in
Yeah.
this particular case, it's you just can't stay in the position of government any longer. Right? This is a time where we need to replace everybody. Everyone has to be replaced because you're so part of the system and the things that you know on the way to do things. We don't want the new people to know, right?
Yes.
We rely on common sense, right? Of course, it is difficult to find people with common sense. It's not so common anymore, but we can find them. The people that have critical thinking skills, and they can be in your neighborhood, and they should not want to be in power. They should not want to run for office. Those are the people we want to draft and say,
Yeah.
"Sorry, you're going to run anyway."
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the search for the reluctant leader, right? The reluctant leader is the one who becomes a leader out of necessity because no one else is stepping up, right? And that's kind of what happens because when you see that there's a better way and no one else seems to see it, it can be a little bit frustrating. It's like, what about all these people that have all this access? The only conclusion to draw is that they're corrupted because if you really look at the system right now, right? And this happens all the time is you'll have new people put in place who have experience, in the industry, right? So you take somebody who has experience at Goldman Sachs to make him you know, the Secretary of the Treasury. So what is he experienced at doing? Well, he's experienced at taking orders from an outside entity and doing whatever they say because he believes they are gods and they have the ultimate power to, give him the ultimate power, right? So that's the first thing. So they're experts at stealing money. Now, if we look at the results that they have created, right? We all of our lives, all of our known lives, our parents' lives, their parents' lives, we have lived in a state of war. The world has always been at war. There's always been a major world conflict for as long as we have been alive at all times. In those wars, they were always created over things that, if we're honest, it's like we probably could have just worked this out. This really wasn't worth going, fighting over, right? It's because one side had the reality of what was taking place behind the scenes was so much worse than what they were telling us because they were set on, you know, committing acts of genocide. And they're trying to drive us there now, right? They're doing that with us right now. They're trying to make it so, Muslims and everyone are like versus everyone else, right? And so to do that, you have to take Islamic people or people who grew up Islamic, and you have to make them do things that really aren't in harmony with what the general religion says, right? And then you exaggerate those points and you make it so it's something you're afraid of and you hate, right? And you can't trust them because what do they do? They're radical. And then you feed them the same nonsense about Christians and Jews and everybody else. Everyone's against you. Everyone else is an infidel. And you keep perpetuating the same false message until both sides are so afraid of each other that they're willing to do whatever it takes to preserve their way of life. But there's just one life. That's what Tui was saying. There's one life that we all share. There's one collective life that is all of ours, and we're all connected. And if you saw, when you see, I have pictures of Kim. I guess I could put them out, but I'm kind of careful about that. But Kim has blonde hair, blue eyes, and she's, you know, very, very fair skinned, right? And you look,
there a picture of her on the Speak project with Mnuchin?
no, Kim, like Kim Gogan, no.
No. Who's the blonde woman on there then with him holding up like some a sheet of bills?
Oh, that's Steve Mnuchin's wife. That's
Ah,
his wife. No.
I see. I didn't
But
know. I thought that, I said, oh, she was at the Treasury with Mnuchin.
no, no, but I mean, it's not a stretch. I mean, Kim's a very pretty woman, but but you look at her, and then you look at Tui, right? Now you look at the two of them and be like, they are so different. How could they possibly represent the Zara Confederacy? How could they possibly be connected in any way? Because they look so different. But it's living proof, right? It's living proof that the things we think that make us so different really aren't. It's a teaspoon of melanin that takes the darkest person on the planet and separates the color of their skin from an albino, let's say. They're not so different, and none of us really are. And that's the reality, and that's something we're gonna have to, so everything else is a created difference that is probably based on a lie.
Yes. Well, just so you know, Tui has joined us.
What's up, Tui?
Well, at least his icon is there. He just is listening in, I guess, at the moment. But yeah, I sent him the link. So we'll post the link later. So we have maybe have some conversation. Cover maybe what I was talking about earlier was the abundance-based economy and his grandfather's sharing system, which created a lot of abundance. Oh, so he disappeared. I looked away for a moment and boom, he's gone. It could be just a connection thing.
So, Dan, what do you think with, here's something I've been kicking around a little bit, because Tui, feel free to chime in at any time, man. If that's him that came back, anyways. But just think about this a little bit. This happens all the time that I get people, during this past year and a half or so that wanted to help to bring money in from the trust, right? And they call me up and they generally they have a system they're using, right? A platform or a secure military system or something else, and they're convinced that their system is unhackable, right? Can't be beat. It's never been hacked because it's never happened. They're convinced it's safe, right? Now that's proven to be wrong over and over and over again, right? So now Kim has secured the system, right? But just the fact that it's even had to go to these lengths. What do you think is the key? Well, what is the key point that shifts everything? Because right now you would think this would be the key, right? Every country in the world basically said, look, you guys had till the 15th. Currently, I'm sure there is a spinning web of lies and lawyers and all types of confusion going on, trying to persuade and divide the world. As we speak. Do you think
Yes.
this is the? Do you think this is going to be the breaking point? You think this is what it will take right now?
Well, I don't think that they can stop their habit just on a dime. It's like a chain smoker, right? Just automatically stopping cold turkey, no more cigarettes. No, they're going to go through the same routines that they always have to grab the next stick out of the pack and light it, and just move to the next phase. And then 20 minutes later, it's the same thing, because it is a habit now. They've been doing this for so long. The people that are in power, though, maybe they are the decision makers. If it's time to make a decision to and take advantage of the deadline, say, okay, it didn't work again. All right, let's go with Manna. Let's make this happen. That obviously they have this side that's been promising cannot deliver. They cannot deliver. Great. Well, let's see who can deliver, and let's give this a shot. Give Manna 14 days. Yeah, give them 14 days to go ahead and move some things around. Let's see what happens then.
You know what I feel like? You ever see the movie Braveheart? Yeah. William Wallace goes. He rides his horse out to speak to these lords.
Freedom.
Yeah, he doesn't leave that. But here's what he said. Here's what he says. They come out to discuss terms, right? That's going to be the rule. So you've got the Duke or whatever. Some landlord from the Scottish goes out, and William Wallace completely could care less about their titles, right? So he goes out and he's riding his horse around them, and he's like, okay, here's my terms. Here's what you got to do. He says, surrender. Go home right now. And they kind of start to laugh, and he's like, I'm not finished. He goes, but before you do, he goes, you need to go out in the middle of that battlefield, bend down and kiss your own ass in front of all these people, right? And he goes, and once you do that, we'll let you go. That's what he said. Those are his terms, right? And and it was, obviously intended for them not to take the terms. But I got to be honest that, that's exactly what I feel like right now. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter if they suddenly say, you know what, we're gonna do it now, because they really, there has to be some level of power that belongs to the people. The people right now do not have proper representation at the table, period. We don't have anyone there representing the real people's interests. Even with all the facts that are out there, 31,000 plus scientists, environmental scientists, standing up right now saying that the data that's being presented to back climate warming, climate change and global warming is inaccurate. It's not a question. There's 31,000 scientists saying this. Okay, I mean that is a huge number. And the ones who didn't say it, there's been many that have said they were threatened to say vote a certain way. We have a history that when someone comes out with a cure for a disease, they suddenly find themselves poisoned at dinner, and they're suddenly killed. They develop a cancer that's incurable, a cancer that will kill them in a couple of days, even, because that's an amazing phenomenon that people probably don't realize happens. That suddenly, scientists and inventors, they have this knack for catching this rare kind of cancer that kills you in a couple of days. Which, has anyone ever been diagnosed with cancer and died in a couple of days? In reality, of course not. They suddenly have cardiac events. So anything that benefits people, anything that makes it possible for us to thrive, gets buried. Now, the only way for that to change is for people to be involved in the actual decision making. Two-thirds of a person.
Yeah. I said let's make them 200%.
Right.
Everyone gets a double vote.
Yeah.
You can vote for one side, then the other. No, forget that. 100% only.
100%, right.
That's a bad idea. Well, not 200%. So, Tui, I did mute you because there was some background news, but you're welcome to join in as soon as you like. Just unmute yourself. Are you there?
Hi, Dan.
Hello. You're here with Dan Lutz and the Galactic Unicorn.
What's up, man? It's Tank. Galactic Unicorn. Galactic Unicorn is my show name.
A very good afternoon to you guys, to Tank from Fiji. Very good afternoon to everyone on the chat room, everyone watching live. Sorry, I didn't want to disturb the flow. It's the flow that you guys are talking about. It sounds really good. On the fact that you guys are talking about sovereignty and how the operation of money and all, and how it's going to be transferred and how the people are going to be involved. It's really, I'm all for the people, and how because this was my question yesterday about the decision on how the money comes in. I'm glad that Tank actually talked about it, how people must be involved, because that's the only way they will be able to understand this true freedom, is then they would be able to work together with the government. I'm sure we're going to do that here in Fiji once we complete the sovereignty exchange. That was, one of my questions to Tank. Was there any exchange between President Trump and A two-way exchange is what I mean. Was there? I mean, I can see the letter that Dan was reading. It was a declaration of sovereignty from Kim. Was there any letter back from the government from Trump?
Well, so there wasn't for a while. They had not accepted the terms, and Kim did put things in place to treat them as sovereign, and she does have a back and forth, communication. She does with the president. And she also he communicates with her directly through the terminal, and to make sure it's secure. And also, there's people in the cabinet who assist what we're doing, who are sympathetic to the cause and understand the reality. Kim has had direct access with her people into the Department of the Treasury to educate them on the history of the trust and the role it's played to really create a lot of what we see now, and to back these assets and how that works. So those discussions have happened on many levels, and there is certainly many plans in place that I can't say directly that Kim is involved, but I can tell you there's a lot of things in place that Kim is involved in, but not that she's claiming publicly, but I'm things that I'm aware of. Obviously these things need to be protected and they have to be done carefully. There is
Yes.
Kim has really done her best to be diplomatic with these individuals in the government, because I don't, for the most part, I don't feel that a lot of the people, the regular people in the government, are bad people, of course, but they are in a very bad situation, and they've been compromised. They get compromised as a standard practice by being like Dan outlined this beautifully yesterday. He said, it starts out by bringing them to a party, and there's a young girl there, and the party planner starts saying, "Hey, that girl likes you. She's talking about you," and he finds himself in some kind of adulterous affair with some young lady. Right? It's not the end of the world, but not something he would have normally done. And then over time and repetition and exposure, right, he starts getting access to more and more. And then next thing you know, that individual says, "Hey, I know this vote isn't exactly in line with you, but you want to back us up and support this vote." Now they're compromised, right? Or they take them to Vegas, and they load them up with this voodoo potion they have, and next thing you know, they are passed out in bed, and they come in and they kill some prostitute, and they leave him there on the bed, and that guy wakes up in a horrible situation, right? And has to call the fixer, and they come in and take photographs, and they have the whole thing on record, right? And then they use that to blackmail them forever to act in harmony and with what they want. So something to that effect takes place with everyone in the government. That is what happens. Now, that is why President Trump is really such an anomaly, and why, obviously we want to do all we can to support him, because he is, you know, was elected, and it was a shock, right, to everyone. And like Tui said the other day, it's because they were using unfair methods to fix the voting in the favor of Hillary Clinton. And the AI disabled that. So that's why you had the election turn out the way it did, where you had President Trump become the president. Well, Donald Trump became the President Trump. So as far as the sovereignty goes, yes, President Trump has done something, but I'll tell you what, it certainly hasn't made the United States sovereign. And as of 2014, all of the contracts with the corporation have expired. And you'll notice that's the first thing it talks about in that document that Dan read. It talks about these contracts have expired, so they are no longer in force. So if there was ever a time where humanity has a choice, it is right now, because we are not contractually obligated to stay in this broken system. But the option, really, it comes down to, it's something that we have to stand up and take it. We have to own the option. We can't just sit back anymore and act like someone else is going to fix this problem for us. It will take involvement from the people. It will take a change in the media. It will take someone in the government to stand up and do the right thing. And that comes from public awareness. That comes from the constant, relentless pursuit of our freedom. And if we do not do that, to be quite honest, we do not deserve to have it. And it doesn't mean, I understand that everyone just wants to align with what's positive and easy. But this is a battle, and so you're going to have to find a way to manage that positive frequency, that positive energy, whatever it keeps you in peace, and still disagree, and still stand up, and still be willing to speak out. We have to be fearless. They thrive on fear, and that is the only reason why they're in power. It's because people continue to live afraid. And as long as we are afraid, they can control us in any way they want.
Yeah, so Trank, let me ask you because I was listening to Thomas's show from the other day, and he spoke about Mnuchin. His blackmail has now been activated, right? And
Right.
it was revealed to his wife about the sex tape with a very young woman.
Yep.
And has been a very so she's filed for divorce and so on. But no, supposedly he was the go-to guy for sex parties, right? And so he was blackmailing everyone in his inner circle, right, in the Treasury Department to fall in line. So number one, who released this blackmail? How did it now make its way into his wife's hands? And what does that mean for the rest of the blackmailed people within the Treasury Department?
Well, you know what? If you are, if you're the guy who is holding the tape for everybody, that can make you seem pretty powerful. Now, I have an idea of a couple different people that I know um, would have access to a tape of Mnuchin doing that. I certainly can't share that. But and part of that would be speculation. Part of that is I have options. I can't say definitively it's one person, so I wouldn't want to mislead anyone either. But it wouldn't serve the greater purpose if I did share it.
Well, my question is a two-thirds of a question. It's really like rhetorical two-thirds.
Yeah. All right.
So, because it's really asking this question is really to point out that something is breaking down. Something within this system of blackmail is breaking down if they starts to devour their own, especially at the position where Mnuchin is at in the Treasury and has been blocking Kim. Now he's compromised, or he's exposed. His compromisedness has been exposed. So. Uh, I was just thinking if we kind of focus on, well, if this is coming down, right, and that means maybe the next level in the Treasury is going to come down, that may mean that there's a clearing out of the Treasury Department at hand.
Well, okay, but here let's paint the picture a little more clean, right? First of all, you'll notice that no one ever is really clear on who's at the top of the order, right? Who's the top guy to get to. Now, I had this problem when we filed we were filing a lawsuit, and I mean, undeniable time-stamped emails from Wells Fargo. I have dozens of them where they were giving people inside information, where they were talking about that there's a revaluation that's taking place, right? And they led people to believe that they set up all of the accounts, these SKRs. SKRs are only legal for 30 days. So all of the SKRs that have been there for 2 years, they're nothing but mirrors. They're nothing but mirrors. There has not been money in those accounts. That's why no one's ever able to access them. So there, in and of itself, is a billions, if not $1 trillion lawsuit because of people that think they have so much money there that they have stolen. but here was the problem. We would get to a certain place, and when you want to get to the person to actually prosecute, to sue, you couldn't get a name. You couldn't nail anybody down. So there was nobody to hold accountable, right? So the lawsuit system, right, which we kind of thought was like, the people's way to strike back is what we were thinking. And I've been since educated on that. Now, in reality, all of the lawyers, every one of the bar associated lawyers, they work for, the court. So even if they represent you, they're loyal to the court, right? So when they go in, the lawyers are taking 50%. So you run a class action lawsuit, and you have a class of however many people, and if the end amount is $100 million, the lawyer takes 50 million, and then all the people split up to 50 million, and they would generally count that a victory, but it's really not, right? All we did was we just earned this money, and there was an agreement between the judge who's working for the bad guys, and the lawyers themselves. And so when you have when that's your kind of operating system, because they've kept all of everything quiet. So the problem is that if Steve Mnuchin gets blackmailed, right, they will step on Steve Mnuchin's corpse on the way to the bathroom. They could care less if he goes down. If he looks like a fool, they'll pin it all on him, and they'll make him look terrible. Oh my gosh, can you Steve Mnuchin? But Steve Mnuchin is just taking orders. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, he's taking horrible orders, and he's a horrible human being, if human at all at this point. But that so and then but what he'll also do is he'll have some kind of trigger set up, and all the information that he has on probably good people, right? They just don't want to be exposed for something that's nowhere near as diabolical as what they have on him. And he'll go to prison, and then he'll try to release all this other information, right? And they think of all the ways they can release information. We are a society where you could put, if you had control, right? If the media and the social media was just a real reporting device, it would be so easy to just start putting out information in every direction, and the
Right.
whole government would be chaos. It's the same way that if you let off if you launch a nuclear weapon at somebody, they're going to launch one at you, and you destroy the world, right? It's been proven a million times over. If one goes off, the world is going to end. This would be the nuclear bomb of blackmail and threats and all this stuff. It's not going to be effective at the end of the day. You because to really be effective, you need to care about your reputation and the things that you've built in your life, because you're invested in them, right? Because you love them, because you love people, you don't want to hurt people, right? All these things. And it also requires that the people that support you, they believe in you, that you're a good person, and they care about that. But when the force is in place, they don't care about that. All they care about is control. So the only option that I see now, I did hear that they started to unseal the indictments this morning.
Yeah, see. Monday morning would be but well, you're at night, right? Still on Sunday, so
Yeah, yes, Sunday. Well, yeah. So, my morning, like earlier today. That's what I heard. But again,
well,
we'll see
I
what
think that it was for this week is when the indictments, and it looks like the focus, according to QAnon, is all going to be about the Clinton Foundation, and that's going to be the initial target. And so things related to that are all going to start coming out this week.
well, that now let's if we there. Here's a perfect example. Every time someone wants to talk about the Clintons, they're a witness in a trial, they end up dead. But it seems like everybody's just turning a blind eye to it. Even when they report it, we all just gonna go, "Oh, that's interesting," or "Oh, that's
Clinton body count has increased. Okay, next.
yeah." And everybody, and this is the malaise, the trance that the world is in, right? And it's definitely programming, which is why in my heart of hearts, I really do believe, and I trust that some of these mechanisms that have been in place to cause that trance have been disabled, because that's the only way. Unless you break the frequency hold they have on everyone to just accept horrible things, just accept that they're okay, just accept that that's a necessary part of being successful, to only measure success through money. As long as that's the way that all of us accept to be true, then when we hear that the Clintons' body count went up, we're like, well, that's the way it is. And what can I do? As long as that's the attitude, as long as they continue to bombard us with apathy and indifference, and they allow that to be, and we allow that to be okay. As long as we permit that to exist in our world, that just to be apathetic about kids being, you know, hurt and killed and traded and sold and kidnapped, as long as we let that be okay, as long as we keep saying, what can you do? What can you do? Well, it's not my problem. As long as we keep thinking that way, this will always happen. And even right now, we're on the breakthrough. It's not the time to take a seat back and go, wow, finally we made it. No. Now is the time that the people have to get involved. Now is the time where people have to stand up with what my friend, my former mentor, Fisher, would say to me is, you have the right to your self-righteous indignation. You should be mad. You should be, and look, and I mean this in a controlled way. I'm not talking about taking violent measures. I'm talking about having a controlled anger that you can direct in a way that is positive, and recognize that this is not acceptable. It is no longer okay, especially right now, because you have, you know, this time in humanity where all the contracts of our slavery are up. And I'll tell you what, that needs to be public. When Tui said that when Fiji goes, goes sovereign, it's going to be like, it's going to hit the internet and it's going to be everywhere and everyone will know. Let me tell you something. I am so in support of that. The second this money comes through, I will have the Speak Project Network launched. And I'll tell you what, I will put as much money as needed to make that the most formidable force in broadcasting in the world. I will do everything I'm permitted to do, I will do. Because if we don't have a voice that is real, the things that have come out in this, just you and me, Dan, and Tui talking this past week, they are world changing. The things that we are talking about here will change someone's understanding on everything. I mean, that's the state we're in. And I'll tell you what, it should be something where, and I'll tell you, I've had people reach out, to this credit, people who are just lovely, beautiful people from all over, so inspired to me by the things that you've shared, so encouraged that it's all real, so happy you confirm so many things for people, that you are an authority figure that we recognize. And you coming out, it takes courage. I was trying to say this to you guys last night when for some reason I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. But I want to say this now because I think it's very important. For anybody listening to this, I hope you realize that there's a reason why the original, tribes, the original expressions have stayed quiet until now. The reason why is because for the most part, like he said, they stay together. They stayed indigenous. They stayed original to hold the original creation codes of the planet, to restore the planet to a natural balance. Now, that means, you know what? For the most part, they don't have a big old military force. They don't have a big, looming powerhouse behind them. So for their safety, for all of our safety, to preserve the natural history of the planet, they stay quiet. So for Tui to come out and be public like this, it is time for all the governments in the world, all the people in the world, everyone to get behind, to realize that is a symbol of all of our freedom. And they have buried these things hundreds of thousands of times, millions of times. We cannot let them do that this time. Tuli, am I telling the truth, man?
I truly, I'm truly, I mean, I'm, I don't know what to say. I'm agreeing. I'm truly agreeing with you on everything you just said, and I guess that's the reason why we met with the chiefs, and I told them we were talking, and then that's the exact thing that I said, that if no one else in the world will be able to start this up, then we will have to initiate it, and we will have to recognize the sovereignty of the trust and Kim. And because I knew that Kim wrote a letter to Trump in on January last year, and provided bad debts payments and everything that a nation or a sovereign nation needs to be free. And so I thought that the U.S. would be the first one to actually claim, not just claim, but declare and also recognize the sovereignty of the trust and Kim. So that's the reason why I actually asked that question. And, I wanted to know if they've done um, um, to recognize Kim back, because that's what it takes to have this agreement to be binding. It needs to be a two-way recognition. So if the U.S. government or Trump has not done yet, I'm putting this on record. Fiji will be the first one to actually do that, and the native people in Fiji will do that. We will put it down on paper, and we'll recognize like I already talked with them. We've already put up a letter, and you send us a copy of that letter that Kim sent to Trump, and we'll be able to reorganize what he put up so that it fits the whatever information that we actually need to be stated in the letter to Kim, and for the sovereignty of our people here in Fiji, and also the government, since the government are just people, they're just people like us, and with through this letter, I represent myself, and I represent the land, the animal kingdom, and the water and the land kingdom. And there's another high chief that will be representing the people. And so throughout DNA, we will actually pledge not just pledge, but actually recognize the sovereignty of the trust and Kim right now. And so I'm just putting that on record, because that's what we were hoping to be the first one. And I think I'm thankful for this platform to be able to get to that knowledge and be able to provide a foundation to be able to do that. I think you thank for your mentioning about what's like generally what is happening, and thank you, Dan. Yeah, so I'm speechless.
Well, thank you. No, you said quite a lot. Being speechless. So, well, to recognize, Kim, that it is something, that at this level you have to recognize one another before you can start doing things together. It's like I see you, right, in the avatar, right? Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
I see you.
I also want to say this. I want to say this because Dan always takes the time to do this, right? And um, and I know people sometimes they might perceive this the wrong way. So I'm going to say it because I never say it. Take this link, post it on your Facebook, post it on your Twitter, post it on your store. Get people to go listen to what's going on. It is essential. You can't do anything. You can do that. You can do that because these right here, and I'll tell you what, we will do this. I already did it on my site today, and I tried to add a bunch of things to it, and I actually messed it up a little bit. I put out the first. I tried to clean it up, and I put out like 24 minutes of of Tui speaking from one of the nights this week, and I'm going to put all those out. But to fast track this, I will take the first. What is it? I'll take since Tui came on, the past 20 minutes of this call, and I'll put it out. So it's 20 minutes. I'll make sure to cut this up when this call's over, and I'll put that out tonight raw, just so it's there, so it's clear what is being said, where Tui stands. Because what he just said, even it's recognizing this sovereignty, right? Now, it is essential to all of you. Every single person who hears this, every person you touch, every person you see, your freedom from in the entire planet, the world that you dreamt could exist, the places that you only see in your dreams, you live there. That's what you have at your fingertips. But you have got to do something about it. And these things should be so viral. The people at YouTube, the people in the mainstream media, you have to make this so big that they cannot ignore it. And if we don't do that, they can just sweep it to the side. So we've got to take a stand somewhere. And it can't be something that is violent, because those are the methods they use. The ways they divide us, that's what they do. We have got to be the opposite. This is a aggressive step towards unity, towards unifying the entire world, not based on everyone being the same, because we're not the same. We are not the same. That's why socialism will never work, because every individual is a creative universe unto themselves. They can do anything. So we have got to unify people around the bare reality that I want you to be able to be yourself, and I want to be myself. And I want both of those things to be okay. And I want to be able to look at you in all that you are and all your differences and appreciate you for that. And as long as you don't do any harm, I want to be able to love you just like that. And I want you to do the same for me. That's what I'm asking everybody. And I'm telling you, if you don't feel it right now, what's going on? There is an energetic shift in the world right now, in the whole world. And we need to catch that wave and foster it. And the more of us that do, the more powerful it gets, and it won't be able to be stopped. So that's why excuse me for getting on my soapbox, but it's too important. It's too important. We've been here 16 days, 16 days banging this out. And I want to make sure.
For our countdown, we have two more days to one, and then we have T-0. And then what are we going to do? T+1, T+2,
What are we gonna do, Dan? We're gonna set up a regular show, right? We're gonna have it like a couple times a week, maybe. Come together.
We'll figure it out. We should talk about it after this show. Maybe orchestrate it, into maybe smaller segments and maybe some longer ones. Call-in days, those kind of things. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
If we can get some copyright-free music attached to like a little video intro.
I'm sorry. I did make that for you. I made two versions on my channel. I can run it without the copyright. Doesn't matter because I don't run the commercials. But I will. I have one made just for your show with absolutely just that I got directly off the app that is clean. Yeah. No copyrights.
You don't have to just so you know. You don't have to run commercials or do the advertising to get the copyright strikes. And they'll take down the channel because you have a copyright strike, even if it's like your first one. They've changed the rules. Everyone's operating. Oh, okay. Well, they learned how to deal with the copyright strikes, I didn't know it was a problem. I think like one of the first times I got it, it was just a video playing in the background that had some music on, and that's what got the copyright strike. It wasn't even intentional. Like, oh, really? So, but yeah, it's just a matter of we need to come up with our intro, how we want to do it, and maybe I think the time slot is fine. We can we cover quite a bit of territory. I guess in Europe though, we're probably a little bit very early morning for them. In Africa, so we may want to talk about adding a different time slot, maybe on pick a day. Mondays we do this time zone. Anyway, we'll figure it out. But important that we keep the information going and we get momentum from what is happening here, and we have to ignore our numbers on the number of views and that because we can already tell that it's actually bigger than what is being shown here. So 2,000 views a day. I think it's actually probably 10 times, 15 times that. Um, at this point. So, but we need to do some other things, other experiments. You said passing the. I didn't talk about sharing the link. So, share this link, copy and paste the link. One other thing that I think might be good to do is to start a channel on Telegram where these things the videos themselves can be posted, and people can go to the channel. It's not a place where you chat, but it's just a channel. It's like a broadcast channel, and you can see anything that's posted there. And they've recently added the ability to play in videos, but you literally will download it in your Telegram and view it. So we can take these videos and post them there for viewing. So those are things that we can do to get around and even to do an experiment. Okay, let's see how many people are going to see it there, right? And have them join that channel. Also, these channels. Telegram is a technology that's much more has depth than people understand. It can be added to a web page, and you can chat on a web page, but you're in your Telegram account. So this type of functionality is being added. They are going to be coming out with their own coin, cryptocurrency coin, which I think may be a very good effort, on their part to establish another coin that will be valuable. They did the largest raise of money for their pre-launch, of their coin, $1.72 billion they raised in like 2 sessions of a couple months apart. But maybe over 4 or 5 months, they raised $1.72 billion. So I imagine it's going to be getting very interesting very soon with Telegram. Anyway, that's we could try that. But how do we? We cannot rely on what may happen in YouTube or Facebook. We're suggesting you take this link and go ahead and copy paste it or share it to your Facebook. But that's being muted. At what level we don't know, but do it anyway. Talk with your friends about it. Did you see this on my Facebook? Just inquire, and the next time you come on and do in the chat room, go ahead and say, I posted this, and my friend they didn't see it on my Facebook. Little stories like that can help bring the awareness up, so people hear us talking about it, but it's not real to them until they actually do it themselves. But it does require you to take these little steps of action, these small things. It takes a little bit of time, so just take a moment now and do it while we're talking.
Hey, Dan, would you mind and would you mind posting the link for people to come on? There's an individual who is pretty religious about watching this. His name is I'm gonna text him right now because I don't know if he wants his name out there because a little bit private. But he's been making some amazing efforts to get the word out, and I think it's noteworthy. I'd love for him to share it.
Yeah, no, I posted it now. It's in the chat, so please join whoever the person is that Tank is referring to. Yeah, come on and let's talk.
It's Alan. Yeah, Alan, I'm talking to you if you're listening. If you're paying attention, I want you to come on. Now, it posts in Google Hangouts or it posts on YouTube.
I put it on YouTube chat.
Okay, hopefully we get him. But I'll tell you that this man has gone out and made it his personal mission. He is, he survives on a very modest income, and he's got some great ideas, and he is out on the street corner, striking up conversations with total strangers, spending half the day like he's a full-time employee for us. out there promoting and trying to get people to realize what's going on in the world.
Let's bring that on live while he's doing it.
I know that's what I think that would be a great idea. And he's actually
man
got a
on the
great
street.
personality. Man on the street. You know what? I'll tell you something else too. I would love to bring I don't know if you ever saw Joyce Keller. She's a famous psychic from she used to be on like the Regis show, Regis Philburn and is that his name? Regis, yeah.
Regis Philburn.
Yeah, thank you. And also she was on the original like Soupy Sal show, right, for years. And she had a show with her husband who recently passed for like 20 years, right? She's got her own radio show now. And I talked to her today. One of these days I'm gonna bring her on. But she's a psychic and she's amazing. And she's so intuitive and so in touch with all this.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she'll come on and
let's do it. Let's add it in and let's roll with it. So all these things will help get the word out and people will start waking up. That's what we need to do. So while we're waiting for Alan to come on, maybe I can talk with Tui and we can discuss what we were discussing yesterday about your grandfather's sharing abundance system.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Thank you very much, Tank. I was really, amazed that we were before we actually called you. Then, and as a family, we were talking about the exact same thing, and we were discussing about how the system that my grandfather actually used, and actually he introduced it here in Fiji from 1986, from 1987 till the 1988, when and then when came to his untimely passing. The system is quite simple. It encourages people to actually share their money, and just by sharing it, the benefit comes like in a full circle. And the more they share, the more they actually get, and the more value they add to themselves. And so he created a system where it encourages people to pass on, or to pass it from one person to another, and then continues down the line. And then eventually, after a few days, after 2 weeks, they can go to the post office and they can collect with the card they've have that recorded. They've recorded these down, the passing from one person to another, and they will take that and they will receive the amount of value that they've been promised for the 2 weeks. And so people, it reaches the government, right to the government leaders. They were so happy because it was helping everyone, and everyone was getting richer and richer every 2 weeks because of and then they increased the amount of sharing they do. So it actually kept on growing, and then they started up with an amount that's just a $15 amount of $15, and then they were able to share that $15. He did it in a way that it encourages people to pass it on to their friends, and then to actually continue to keep them doing all this transaction and create value to the same amount of money. But as they pass it on, the value becomes bigger and bigger because of they just use maybe just the same thing, and then 2 weeks later they can go and collect. So it happens in every 2 weeks. And so what happened in Fiji was it increases the amount of people that use the post office, and they open up their post office account, thousands of them, thousands from every town in Fiji, and it was all over our towns in Fiji, and and the family didn't know. I mean, they couldn't know. My mom was one of the typists that was involved in one of the offices, and there's just money everywhere, and they didn't know how my grandfather actually come up with it and how he thought about it. But he uses a logo that he uses what the golden rule of love is, and then he interpreted it in that way. And so he said, if you hold on to your money, then it will be dead. But if you pass it on, everyone, it will come around to you again, and then with other value. But then he created an environment where that can actually be not just control, but in a way beneficial to everyone. And so the only expenses was the people that had to work for them. So that's basically
It was a manual accounting system, right? So everyone had to, be accounted and do the accounting.
yes.
So you're
Yeah.
was one of the ones doing the typing.
Yes, there were like hundreds and hundreds of them doing that. They had to like rent out spaces so they can have typists all over in those big rooms, and then as people continue coming in, they have to increase the amount of people that are in those rooms, and then have to hire a few more houses and open up more post office accounts all over all over the country. And it grew, and the prime minister came down and actually acknowledges it, and because everyone is benefiting and everyone is they're not loaning money from the bank, they're all just sharing, and then they are they're benefiting and then using the post office. And he almost bought the post office, and he almost bought the bank because of the amount of money he's getting. And then he he wanted to increase the amount of money from $15 to $150. So what happens if you buy $15 of those cards that encourages you to share? You will get $25 from what you're gonna sell it for, and then that's a $10 profit from the $15 that you used. And then you wait for 2 weeks. They will run the system for the 2 weeks, and then you'll take your card in, and then you'll go and receive the $300 every 2 weeks from the $15 that you bought. And then they were just about to increase to $150 so that people can receive $3,000 at the end of the 2 weeks. And then they wanted to increase it to $1,500 for those who can do that, and then receive the $80,000 for the end of 2 weeks. So my grandfather said that everyone could be very rich pretty soon, and he understands that there will be inflation, and because there will be people, but there will always be abundance on the system. So for the past 2 years, I've been researching. I go around to all my families trying to get that system, because I wanted to be implemented as a option system in Fiji from the free environment system that I wanted to implement. So if there's economic or commerce, then we need to use a type of system that my grandfather used. So I went to all these partners that are still alive now, and I went to all my uncle that were involved then. I went and asked them on anything they understood or anything, what was their involvement. And this was what I was doing for the past 2 years. And when you mentioned yesterday, and you're trying to explain the abundance system that you're talking about, I said, oh, no, this cannot be. No, it cannot be. Because I interviewed all these people, but at the end, I still couldn't understand what my grandfather actually did, until you told me that story, that secret story that you mentioned, and then it just fall into place. I think I was thinking about it the whole night, and because I was just surprised because, like I said, the synchronicity of things that are happening right now. And I didn't even think that anyone else would be able to help me to understand it until you mentioned it yesterday. Yeah, so thank you very much, Dan. And I know in this show that we'll actually talk about it more, so that more people will be able to understand it. And I know it will be hard for people to understand it in the first time. I've been hearing you talking about it in the first few shows that you made, but till yesterday it sinked in, and then I was able to understand the point that you're trying to make. So I won't say more. You go ahead then.
Okay, well, I'll start with what I was describing as an abundance-based economy, and what does that look like? And that's what I was describing to Tui yesterday. So, if what we need to do is look at the existing system, and we're quite used to it. It's part of our lives. We understand, what we get out of it, and how we're able to, keep feeding ourselves and paying our bills, and having a car, and having a roof over our head, and having clothing. So we understand the system, but we also understand that it's removing from us, right? And basically, even the possessions that we think that we're owning, they're also removing that. So the system is all parasitic. So what we have to do is build a system that is the opposite of that. So everything about that system we need to rebuild, but in an opposite way. So one thing to do is reverse the flow in which money moves. So whenever you go to buy something, right, pay for a meal, what if the restaurant pays you for eating there? What if the restaurant owner that gets their meats and vegetables from the grocer is paid to get those things from the farmers? What if the farmer that got the feed for their animals, or the nutrients for their plants, was paid to get those things? What if we reverse the flow? What if we do it in where the money is flowing to people for their actions? By recognizing the same fact that in this existing system, we're the battery, right? But we're being expended for others, right? At the top of the pyramid. If we are to instead recognize that our value is in our energy, and we would like to benefit from it, we have to have things flow towards us. So that's the basic principle of how that happens. And there's a lot of things to go into to describe how that actual functions. I was just giving a very basic idea of an abundance-based system where when you act and you do things, you are rewarded, whether it is, eating a meal or texting on your phone. You're doing something. And even though if you're texting, it may not be a lot that you're receiving for it, but it is something. It's a flow, and everything you do in your life can be that way. This also would, in essence, fulfill the dreams of socialism. The people that don't have to work to do it to get paid. So on a base level, someone always does something, even if it's preparing a meal for themselves. They're doing something. We just have to reorganize the system in a way that allows for that to be valued, at least to the level where people can take care of their basic needs, and we can adjust that. So anyway, that's a description of an abundance-based system. We can go into the depths of that. So this is what was Tui had recognized as similar to in concept. People became abundant in the system because the flow was going to them. Well, in his grandfather's sharing system, the abundance was going to them by the act of sharing. So, but he didn't understand how it worked, and so then I said, okay, if you want, I'll tell you the secret. It's the secret of money. Of velocity of money. And this is the example that I gave. Let's say you are a salesman, you come into a town, and you're going to maybe spend the night, you're not sure, but you go over to the hotel and you talk to them and say, listen, I may need a room tonight. Let me put down $100 deposit. and you hold the room for me, and I'll let you know because I've got several appointments. I don't know if I'll get through them all today. The hotel says no problem, and is holding the $100, and the salesman leaves for the day. So the hotel owner has some people come in to bring in vegetables and meats for the hotel, for the restaurant in the hotel, and he pays them with the $100. The $100 leaves with the people selling the groceries, and then they go back to their grocery, and they end up paying for the farmer with that same $100. And the farmer then uses that same $100 to buy fuel, and it keeps moving on. It actually goes to 10 different places before it ends up in the hand of someone who needs to stay at the hotel. He goes to the hotel and he says, I need a room for the night. And they said, no problem. Takes $100 and gives him a room for the night. So that same salesman that came in the morning and put down the deposit comes back in and says, you know what? I'm not going to stay. Can I have my deposit back? And the hotel owner says, sure. Gives him the $100 back. So the question is, where'd all that money come from to pay those 10 people the $100 along the way throughout the day? Where did it come from? Where is that money? That's $1,000 was paid out. But the guy who originally had the $100 has his original $100 back. He didn't use it really, other than have someone hold it for a day. So where did it come from? It's called the velocity of money. It's basically as the money travels, and it doesn't have to stop at 10 or 20 or 100. It could go to 1,000 people, and would have brought $100 along the way, paying off things. So in a sharing system, you can increase the velocity of the sharing. The money moves from hand to hand to hand, and along the way, the people had value. And if it repeats again and even if it comes back to the same person, the same $100, it keeps going around. In the case of the grandfather system, it was $15 was the amount that was on. I do not know the mechanisms and the sharing and all that. It didn't really matter. It was just about the story of understanding that the velocity of money plays a role in the economics, and how fast does it move? The faster it moves, the more currency is created, right? The more of this is that energy is now abundantly moving around. So anyway, that's the secret. So this is something that we have to really consider when we want to create an abundance-based world. What does that look like? How do we build the opposite? How do we make something in which people are always gathering and making generational wealth that is for their family and for their dynasties, for their for the society around, the cities in which they live, for all to benefit. We have to create something where everyone is trying to help everyone's sharing. In this way, we're able to create abundance, and it's with this velocity. Anyway, this is the secret, and I was glad to share it with Tui, and I hope you got some sleep, and you were up all night.
Dan, the only thing I struggle with this system is, there's a intrinsic value that we have that is constantly immeasurable, right? So, I always reference this book written by Alfie Kahn called Punished by Rewards. So when you start to monetize everything, essentially we're really structuring everything. We're putting a value that on everything that is, I'm not sure how we decide those values, but for the doing of things, right? Which I'm obviously a fan of, right? Of people doing things, right? But then it really kind of detracts from, at least as far as I can tell. It would detract from the real abundance of the actual what the what the human experience is, because now we're taking we're turning it in money, right? So now
listen. I hear what you're saying, and I agree. When you start putting values on everything, you've limited also the value. It's not. It's. I mean, it can be adjustable, but in essence, it's a system.
But I think the idea is what more than anything it's getting the conversation started, and I think that in and of itself is valuable. Just for the record, I don't I don't want to take away from it, because
No,
I think what you're saying is solid.
I think the end goal of a cashless society, meaning also it's don't deal with money. I mean, not having money at all. Can anyone envision that now? No, we cannot. We do not know what that looks like. We cannot feel it. We cannot understand it. If we look at Star Trek, we're back to the geeking out here, but the Star Trek society in the future, there is no money. They're not. And of course, the other races like the Ferengi, right? They're the capitalist group, right? They have the money, right? They want the gold pressed platinum. So, but we do not know what that looks like. But we could create an economic system that kind of delivers us at that goal off in the distant future by kind of training us to think out of abundance. When there's always enough, you can always do things, and whatever you do, you're rewarded for, and it helps you to grow. There is a balance there of when you're putting out energies and you're building something, that something is built, and it takes energy to do that. The problem with the socialism or the where government is set up to have dependence, that they're not producing, is a problem, because there's no value in themselves, so they don't go out
Agreed.
and create something that is of value. And if they were to do, they have no part of it, so they're detached from it. So that whole system doesn't function. But if we're able to create an abundance-based system where the value is always gathering to the individual, they have the power to use it. Now they have to have cooperation with other people around them for their ideas. They had an idea that's so fantastic to them, but nobody else agrees. Well, it's not going to go anywhere, right?
Agreed.
They can build it and it not happen. But if it's beyond their financial capability to have it happen, right, they'll have to coordinate with others. So this also leads to the question: well, if you're creating a business and you need more financial capability, and you go to a bank, what do you expect from the bank? The bank to lend you. Well, how does that work now? How do you create a new banking system, right, that is abundance based, and it works for the benefit of the bank as well as for the people? So these things are all on creating a new abundance-based economy that we can go ahead and take steps towards, and we just have to analyze, start the conversation. Not everything is going to work, right? But we can make some good starts towards doing it.
I just in the conversation and in the concept of it, one of the things I think, if we're really going to move to a place where people are essentially encouraged to create new things, to access the full potential of the human experience, their own abilities, our ability to develop, technologies that are in tune with the natural biologic technology, organic technology that we all have. To do that, I think, there has to be, this level of, real, uh, almost like a central distribution, right? Which is what we've been talking, you and I've been talking about a little bit, is being able to distribute funds just for the, someone they have an idea, they want to do something, And we have to measure success differently. We have to measure what it means to be successful differently. So the example I use is there's a product that I would wanted to bring to market a year ago, and the product was made up of 4 ingredients from the Amazon rainforest. And the product had the ability to take even a diabetic wound, which is notoriously hard to heal because diabetics, oftentimes they have, this concentration of, I'll say it this way, concentration of sugar that is crystallized in their capillaries, right? So these microvessels in the extremities of their body, they end up crystallizing, and the blood isn't circulating. And so if they get a wound there, it's very hard for it to heal, and oftentimes they lose a limb. So you take this exact same product and you bring it to market, and you literally, whatever it takes financially, let's say, is a wash. It's free, right? Like for them, for the actual designers of the product to bring it out. And we bring the product out. Now they don't have the crushing cost of the overhead expense that normally businesses spend their whole 30 to 50 years paying back debts, right? So we wipe away the debts. The entire concept of debt is gone, so to speak. And they bring this product to market. Now the first year, as far as whatever money they make essentially is profit, number one. And number two, we measure success not by the profits at all. The success is now measured by the baseline. And so say the baseline is the first year before we bring the product to market, 1,000 diabetics in the sample base we use had to get limbs amputated. And the next year, we launched a product year one, only 600 have to get amputations. So the measure of our success is that we save 400 limbs, right? Now that's a different metric. That's a unique and creative metric to measure our success by. Now, creative measures for success is what real abundance is going to be based on, not on money. Because if all we do is judge abundance based on money, we'll never be abundant because we'll never pursue anything except for money. And as long as the pursuit ends up being money, we can't really get quite to where we want to go. So there's somewhere in the combination of these two concepts, I feel is is at least part of the answer.
Well, let's throw merit into that. Because the meritocracy is also one of those things that's out there now that people are floating towards. And again, sounds good, but again, it comes down to who is basically defining who has merit. If it's the central planning committee, of the Communist Party, or Socialist Party, or of any party, you end up with those same dictatorial type of environments. If they're the ones that say what merit is, and what if those people are great in the beginning, but the next group that comes into place is, not so great, and then it gets worse thereafter as greed creeps in, and they're able to move the merit to where their benefit only. So there is a way of us to value this unique metrics of how those things, and merit can play a part in it, but it has to be based around the people that are involved, boots on the ground with that particular thing that's being measured. Those are the ones that are able to judge at that moment what merit is valued at. So it could be a part of a variety of metrics that come together. The good thing is that because of the technology we have, we can actually create these systems and make them automated in a way that makes it simple for everyone to participate. No one has to really take extreme action other than paying for things to flow. In Tui's grandfather's system, he passed away, and so did the system, because it was all manual, and it was no one quite understood it. He's the one that understood the magic of the velocity of money, and was that his grandfather?
I know, that was like eerie. Wow, he was crying out.
As a, you know, so at least it was a howling success. You know.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Sorry, that was my dog. Uh,
It's all right.
It's okay. It was perfect. So
So I can give a general standard on this kind of for at least merit when it comes to to business, right? All companies start with a very noble mission statement for the most part, right? And nobody invests in a company that they don't believe in their mission, right? The mission dictates the merit. Now, the funding organization, which in this case, for example, say Create Change, which is my organization, is the first organization I had approved for project funding, and Kim and I designed it so we could set up distribution centers, around and have people set up offices and things of that nature, so that we could use them as places where people could come and apply for funding. And the goal would be that when people come in and their mission is X, whatever it is, um, whether it's to we want to provide you know free electricity to you know all the suburbs of New York City, you know, and now and then they come up with a number of like how many people, and they have to have do a needs assessment and figure out how many people actually need that, how many people are there, what would it take, what are they currently using, right? And then from the time you launch it to the next year, and you measure it along the way, I guess, you're measuring your success based on the mission. Now the mission, because you're now dictating the success of this business based strictly on the mission. Now everyone becomes mission based. So in essence, everyone's allowed to keep their individual purpose, right? Now, as long as it doesn't hurt other people, right? Now, if your mission is to like, wipe out white people, like that's not a mission we could support, right? But if it's a mission that is, in harmony with the greatest good for, the people, the planet, and the individual human experience, then essentially what you do is now, based on how successful you are in your mission, would also dictate how successful the funding organization is, right? So the funding organization, their job now, their success, even their payment comes from, are they successful in making the people that they funded successful, right? So they have to not only make sure that they get them the money, but they also are responsible, right? So they can't just be a typical bank. They also have to be, they also have to be able to connect to all the participants in that community that will have an influence and an effect on that project. So if it's a construction project, then the funding organization, we'll just say Create Change in this example, the Create Change has got to know who are the most ethical contractors, who's going to finish the job, who uses the best standards, the best materials, the best equipment, who is consistent in finishing the job on time, right? And so they have to have a way to measure, what's going to help that project be successful, right? And the measure might be different depending on, the organization. It might be totally different. So that funding organization, right, this sort of distribution point or uh, kind of a development center, this development center would be responsible for the entire community. So every one of these developmental centers that is centered in these communities, right? They're essentially accessing, the greater um, the greater AI, so to speak, or the greater quantum system or quantum universe or whatever. It's greater bank of resources, and they're making sure that the values that are most important to that community, the culture that is important to that community, stays intact, but it is the best version or the best representation of itself. And in that way, you're still creating abundance, because people who don't have massive debts to pay back and suddenly they own their business, right? And they can focus solely on their mission, which we have to assume, that for the most part, people don't start businesses with the intent to hurt people, right? And a lot of these uh, businesses that we wouldn't necessarily support, The only reason why they exist for the most part is because they're not trying. It's not because they're hardcore believers in, having a hardcore fetish porn site, right? It's because they figured out they can make money doing it, right? And money is the goal. So they'll compromise ethics because they want to make money. So if we're giving them money based on ethical business practices and we're supporting them to accomplish their mission, you create abundance the same way. And then we actually get away from a place where money's so important, because money's available, right? Or the substance to build from is available, just as it is on the planet, right? Because the planet is abundant. The planet is abundant in resources. The planet is abundant in air and water and food. There's plenty. There's plenty of it. It is abundant. Now, the illusion is that we're not abundant. And the way the illusion is held in place is because so much of the focus is on money. So I think the transition is somewhere in there, in that combination of things. And to your point of being able to measure these kind of, just basic things, so we know what people are, what they need, what they want, and give people a vote even if they don't vote, right? Because that's another thing, is making it so hard to have a say is part of it, right? But if you could just gather the data in a more efficient way, then you have a better feel for what people are doing and what they might need.
Well, I think valuing the individual can also come about by valuing what's unique in the individual and what they do.
Exactly. Yeah.
For example, someone who is an attorney in a place where everyone's an attorney, it's not unique, so has less value.
Very true.
One level of assessment, that is. There could be multiple levels of assessment. Uniqueness is being one of them. So when things are unique, so let's say that someone I mentioned earlier, texting. It's not too unique to text, right? But but maybe if you were an amputee, right, and you had no arms, and you texted with your toes, that's a little more unique. Maybe it's more valuable.
Wow, that is I would definitely pay for that. I mean, that is worth investing. You're right, and I would say it also becomes a method to transition culture in a way that's just best for the overall health of humanity, such as meaningful human interaction, actually having a conversation with someone. If you think about it now, I mean, this society, they're talking about this on social media with kids, how it's actually made kids less social.
Yeah.
Because they can be, a rock star, they can be a bully,
they
can't
talk to their brothers and sisters even at the same dinner table unless they're texting them across the table.
Yes. That happened at my house today. I have a projector, and the bulb blew on the projector. My house was magical today. I thought of you immediately, Dan. I'm gonna have a ceremony to cut the cables, because it was my kids were playing all day. They were playing jokes on each other. They were talking and playing board games. I mean, who knew we have like 15 board games in the house? No one uses them. So, but they were cleaning.
You have to be prepared for the withdrawal symptoms. So you'll be the enemy for a while.
No, that's okay. I don't mind. Yeah. I'll be the bad guy. That's okay.
It's all right. Yeah. So for the greater good.
Absolutely.
I guess. Sorry. I get you. I'm truly. I'm thankful for that point. Thank on the systems that the economic system, because I'm what now? I'm 33 years old now, and I've fully understood how commerce and how the economic of the system of the world, or even here as a government, is actually one of um, the main factor of what I call harnessing of energy or slavery that the only way to actually free everyone is just to create a free system. So we can do progressions in a way that it's not just a sudden change. It takes maybe a few years, then we move to this set of system, then we move to a more abundance, and then finally people can learn to be realize that their life force inside them is totally free, and the value that comes out from it is totally free. It doesn't have to be valued from outside of themselves, or to be valued in a way that um, it's going to take attention out, and then people tend to forget who they are again, and so it's a really huge lesson for everyone to actually learn, and there has to be a system to progressively prepare people and to be able to teach them. But if we are stuck on ultimately on just using a system that is valued outside, then it won't be truly free. And I've experienced that here in Fiji. We live in villages where people's work are just valued by, I mean, that's what they are valued for. You plant and you share with your family, with your neighbors, and then you share it with them, and then it gives you a lot of joy. It gives you a lot of happiness, just living a day, and you can't buy that with money. And they do the same to you, and then we do it to each other. And it's our world is really beautiful, and nobody owns the river. Everyone can just go and use it as they need, and then when they don't need it anymore, they don't do that. They don't use it anymore. And so we've sat down in some of the young minds in the universities. We try to organize a system that can actually work, and one of the reasons why I'm involved in this, because I believe that here it can really change really fast. I know you in the US and other first world countries, it will be really, it's going to take a lot of transition to, or a lot of effort to change. Over here, because of we can even run a dolly or three systems at once, and then be able to educate everyone to be able to understand the difference, and then finally they can actually choose which one they think is the best. And all the system that Dan is talking about, I was telling, because that would be, I would count, will be can be the next thing, and then the last system is just to be free. Over here in Fiji, like I know it's going to be new to some of the people in the urban areas to be able to live without money, and to be able to be out of grid, as you say. But for us in the villages, we know that what the system that we are using right now and we're keeping, it's the ultimate most advanced system that people will find in one day. They'll be able to realize it. And so, like I was saying in some of the past conversations about how we're not so good in business or so good in commerce, and we don't have shops and we don't have this, because for maybe 30, 50 years now, for over 40 years, we've been independent. And if you come to Fiji, you hardly see a Fijian native be owning a shop. Only maybe in a canteen in the village, but not a prominent big business or running a company that is fully immersed in commerce. Because the way our life is we value the inner essence of every one of our relatives, the people. We value the people, not things that's outside of us. And it's it's really apparent in if you look at the history of Australia. And I just want to bring it up. The Aboriginal culture, they were trying to develop them, trying to build houses for them, and they tried to build this nice big house because the government, the people of the government, they thought that that's what they would, like they would value. They try and create a system of, and they just end up demolishing the house, making firewood, and then they prefer to be on land. And I will be here in Fiji, and I'll be laughing. And I said, I understand exactly what they're doing. um,
No, yeah, me too.
yeah, people don't understand the most advanced technology is the body, is what that's the most advanced technology. One day in the future, people will get and remember them and remember who they are, and they will be able to do things that right now, how the body works and how it's really amazing if people truly really know who they are, and that's physically, spiritually, and to be able to see things outside of them, to be able to evaluate them, to be able to evaluate what you see, the different colors, what you hear, the sounds, and all the different frequencies of your senses. Um, there were some people asking me about how the 12 sense, what are the 12 senses, and I was thinking to myself that I I I would like to answer your question, but you've been using that body for all your life, and if you don't understand, and if you still don't know it, if you still and you're using it every day, and you don't know the 12 senses, you just been fed that you only have five, and then you think that you are the five senses all your life. I guess that most that's like it's almost all the reasons why you don't even understand a lot of things outside of you, because you don't know who you are. And so I heard um, Tang talking about the sanctuary, the most holy and holy place, which explains fully what a human body is and what it represents, that how God is within, and how the value of how value is created as a creative energy. We were talking about it with Dan yesterday, about how people can create and has that innate value to be able to have faith and then believe, and then be able to create something that they use their senses to value, to be able to as an input. And then we were talking about computers, and then he mentioned that that's what computers cannot do. They cannot create a unique or give value to things. All they have is programs, and they'll be programmed. And so, like on the point that Tang was talking about, how the free system really works. I know that I know deep inside when every individual on the planet, especially, um, I don't like to use the word human being or person. Every spiritual energy that is source, that is inside the physical body, that is living and thinking and creating. Once they fully realize that gift, they will understand that they're the most powerful thing. And they don't need anything outside of themselves to value who they are. They don't need gold, or they don't need silver. They give value to gold. They give value to silver. They make all these things happen. And if finally people can truly understand that, then they will truly be free, and they will truly be who they are, truly sovereign. And I guess as guardians now, that's our role, to really try and understand that, and trying to create a system where this transition can progresses into a system that actually works in that way. And so I see that as a very big role for my people here, as the native people in the Pacific, that we have to try and teach and tell the world that there's a system here that is free. And you have that most extreme part of the commercial side, and we have the most extreme free side. How we can actually work together and find a bridge so that people can go and relearn their way back to freedom. So I guess that's the reason we are reaching out to be able to let Tank and Dan knows, and anyone that's watching, that you are looking for a free society, and where there's no commerce, where there's no law, where everyone is sovereign and everyone is respected as who they are as creators. We have it here. We are working on it, and that's we call it here in Fiji the law of sovereignty, and that's how the chiefs operate. We operate in not just declaring but recognizing each other's sovereignty, and out of love and respect. And so that's how we do things. And yeah, in the past, some people will be thinking, some people will hear the history of Fiji as the Fijian people. We used to be a cannibal. We have a cannibal society, or the people used to be cannibal. But if you come here and then you truly realize how the cannibal system works, it's actually working on the law of sovereignty. What happens is when someone, if the only person that is actually eaten in our culture is those people who um, take advantage of other people, and then we call them kaisi. These kaisi, the people that are kaisi, they are the one that actually they broke the law of sovereignty, and to be able to realign the whole country, they have to be killed and be eaten, and then the DNA returned and realigned to the original agreement of the place. And so they call them kaisi. We just don't don't go around like hunting people and killing them and then eating them like for food or for survival. No, the people that are eaten, or the people that are there, actually it's like, because we don't have prison, we don't have people to be stored in prison. They have to be realigned, and every time they are killed, they'll accept defeat, because they know they've wronged the whole country, or the whole system as a whole, and they've disrespected someone. And if someone steals, they will be killed and be eaten, because when they're eaten, they return back. We call it the soul arrangement. We arrange the soul so that it's always be in line with the respect of each other. So people will always be in line. So the only people that are killed is the people that don't stick to the law of sovereignty, or the law of something like they're doing something that they don't want to be done to them. And so that's before Christianity, there was the practice here in Fiji. But really, we do that just to realign the DNA back to, so that we keep it. If you look in the Bible, it's the same thing they do. If someone does something wrong during the time they were in Exodus, they will be engaging in wars, and then suddenly they realize that, oh, there's something wrong in the tribes. Then they have to do that. What can I say? They have to try and find out what's wrong, and then they figure it out, and then they find the family, and they have to stone the whole family from their father and the rest of the family, because it is looked at as they've betrayed the whole tribes as a whole, and they've caused problems because of they were thinking about selfishly about themselves and not thinking about the whole. And also in the New Testament, Jesus talks about how you can, if there's a part of your body that is that's gonna lead you to sin or make you go into problem, you cut it off. You cut off your eyes, or if all this. So it's the same way we view the Atoll tribes in Fiji. We view it as a family, whole family. And if someone does something wrong, he has or she has actually, what can I say, so it's corrected in that way. And so if you ask any Fijian or the native Fijian, they will tell you Kaisi are the only one that eaten, because the DNA has to be chained on the soul. They've committed something that their parents or even their ancestors didn't agree to. So they have to be corrected. And we don't correct people, in the past, and put them in jail or put them in a prison. We correct them by recorrecting the DNA and the soul in that manner, by putting them back as one when you eat them. And so that's what we see eating as. when you eat fish and all, you become one with this, with the energy. You become one with them, and so that's the way our system was working before Christianity comes in, and all the other system comes in. And we understand it now. We understand the value of life, and then we've understood that all these things has happened for a reason, to be able to fully understand and then be able to prepare ourselves for this change right that we're here, and right even right now at this moment that we're talking about on the show. And so yeah, I mean, going off topic. Yeah,
I want to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Clarify. So you're not still eating them, are you?
No.
Okay, just checking.
No, it's.
You invited me for.
I know. I don't want to be like, hey, we want to invite you over to a soul integration party. Might be, might not be good for regular people. The next step with this, just to forewarn, to call them out before they do something stupid, right? Because what they would do traditionally, right? Yeah, right. They'll take something like this principle that Tui just described, and and they'll say, look, we're going to return. So this would be a typical cabal tactic, or whatever, draconian tactic. They're going to take that principle, right, and say, well, we have to integrate their soul back, right? And what they'll do is they'll take it and somehow justify their perverse practice of just killing and eating people, right? And they'll and that's the kind of thing they would do, though, right? They say, look, this goes back to, and they'll justify it. All of a sudden, there'll be a common practice with around the world, right? And that's the kind of thing that they do. And the only reason why I pointed out is because I think it's really important to realize that everything that everything that is, we're dealing with on some level it originates from something that had a core principle that is valuable, right? That makes sense, right? Like the way Tui just described it. I mean, shoot. I mean, it makes sense, right? That idea makes sense, right? But
if there's there's a positive reason for it.
Right. And so, now granted, just for the record, I'm not supporting that particular practice, but the point being,
I'll just put it out there just for for people to be able to understand.
I think it makes perfect sense. I'm glad you explained it, because that was one of the things I think if anybody researched Fiji, that pops up, right? Because that's what they dominate with.
So not only the chiefs will eat because they have to align what has happened. So they're responsible for, because of their DNA agreement, they're responsible to be able to maintain that that agreement that happened long ago. And for them, we value life more than anything. But when we literally will have to correct if there's something wrong with the whole body, and then if you come to Fiji, and if you listen to the scholars and how they explain it, because they are not Fijian, they just think that, oh, they are cannibals, they are eating people, then they bring Christianity to be able to change that and all that. But then if you understand, if you sit and if you're there as a family, and then you truly understand that when we don't go around hunting and trying to kill people and eat them for survival or anything. No. Otherwise, it's a small island. There will be no more people here within thousands of No. So we protect our people. We protect them in the village. We protect them. We have what you call the Mbati. And the Mbati is like the military part of the Tom tribes. And when other people come in, they try to cause problems. They are the one that will be corrected.
Yeah. So the crime rate was low then.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said I guess that the crime rate would be very low back then.
There's no crime at all, But if you commit a crime,
I bet there's no crime.
yeah, so we're discussing something, like in the past that we always people truly don't understand. That's something that my family, because I'm a chiefly family, I come from a chiefly bloodline, so I can, I fully understand, and I can actually talk about it in a way that it doesn't make it, like from a standpoint of view now, in this time that we've understood everything, and then we've learned about all that is good in the world and all that is bad. I guess that's the real reason why we go through all the experience, to be able to learn and be able to understand and be able to grow from it, and then be able to change. Um, then we'll be able to do what we're supposed to do now. If without those past and those experiences, we will still be, we will still be in darkness. We wouldn't even know that we are slaves, and we've been uh, we've been dead since the beginning of our life. Just after a few, like
7 years.
when yes, just not even 7 years. Just when you're born, both your soul is pledged for the rest of your life. And if you can redeem it after 7 years, before 7 years, that's it. And even though you think that you're alive,
Claim yourself or be alive, but you didn't
yes,
know that you had to because you were a baby.
Right.
Yeah. If I was only more aware when I was 5 years old about these things, I didn't
If
become
only.
aware until it was more like about 12. So,
12,
12, yeah.
12,
Yes, 12.
really?
Yeah. I was
Great.
very precocious and
Hmm.
young man there. Yes. And I was in business, since I was in 5 years old, 4 years old, actually.
Right, makes sense.
I was selling
I figured it out.
candy in preschool.
I figured it out when.
I was in business ever since I can remember. So, trading candy for this. I was making some good money, I remember, and then I organized my inventory. I remember the teacher bringing my parents in to show what was in my desk, right, and it was organized into to the different candies, right. And I had a little jar for my money. The security system was the lid, right.
My son just started doing something like that at his school, and I couldn't even be mad. I was like, hey man, I appreciate your hustle. Go for it.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, no. By the time I was 16, I was active in the birth certificate entity movement of understanding how that acts, and tax protester, that type of thing. I was already aware of how I was listening to the people of what you need to do. How it's very unusual situation to find yourself in when you're what's going on. You try to explain it to the others, and all they want to do is fill out their W-2 and W-4s or whatever. And so okay, just tax me. And then why are you doing this anyway?
Yeah, man.
It's time to move
Yeah,
past this.
you definitely have some unique experiences, Dan. Nothing surprises me. Nothing at this point. Nothing.
Let's see if I can come up with something. Uh,
Yeah.
The Tomb Raider one was a good one yesterday. I haven't talked about that in quite a number of years.
Well, it's amazing. I just heard a YouTube on what I think is the same thing actually. The Tomb Raiders who were talking about it. They were talking about and in those same relative tombs, they were talking about all these different areas, all throughout the middle of the country there that were that held these names that you were talking about, like Kentucky and all these different things. And and a lot of times there's there's harder to find now, but there's historical records of these, they would come in, and the various Native Americans, they weren't like wearing loincloths the way they said. They were wearing like regular clothes like we would, that we might have made. So they're saying, so it's very, very different.
This area up the Mississippi, which is the way that the Egyptians would get to this area, would be they'd follow the waterways and go up the Mississippi. And along the way, there was trading posts, and they were bringing the young boys from Egypt to learn how to be priests. And so that was the purpose of that particular area where we were at. And so there was a lot of unfinished tablets that they would, practice on making the hieroglyphs on it. And so there's a lot of
you talking about Egyptian priests, right?
Egyptians, yes.
Yeah, I just want to clarify for people listening, so they don't, you say young boys and priests, and people are going to immediately jump to a conclusion.
Yes. Let's be more clear.
No, you got to be.
But my understanding of those priests, though, the young boys they were, I believe that they were also castrated. I might be wrong about that. I heard a story about that, and at that time, and I had not heard it before, but they had mentioned that they were castrated, so they can focus on just serving the temple. That sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah, that's like the eunuchs.
Eunuchs. Yeah.
Three kinds of eunuchs: eunuchs by birth, eunuchs by design, right? Like they're castrated, and then eunuchs who just were born with no sexual desire. They're all talked about in different levels as being able to. Well, they talk about that as it doesn't cloud you, but then I think it kind of ends up making you, in a lot of cases, kind of. I mean, I'm sure it's natural for some people, but for the most part, I think it makes you kind of half a person, an unfulfilled person, and you really can't be in touch with the entire human experience and really be in tune with it.
But, right. Yeah, I'm 100% against chopping my balls off.
I am 1,000. I am in. I'm like, as far as a policy that we can get the world to agree on, let's stop that practice. That's going on anywhere.
Genital manipulation of either sex should be stopped.
Yes, agreed.
And then they're removing the 60 genders from the whole concept of there being more than
60 genders. What does that mean? I
heard that on Thomas Williams, and it was, I think he said 62 or something like, and he was like in disbelief in the statement anyway. So just as anyone should be, who is sitting around thinking of these things?
Just a couple of guys coming up with
to be imaginative. How can you get past 3 or 5 or whatever, but you can get up to 60s?
Well, it's so bad. My kids' school here in my little town outside of New York City. My daughter's kindergarten. All along every window are these beautiful metal casts beneath the windows. They're huge. They're probably 4 foot by 4 foot underneath every window of the Black Eagle, right? Of the Rothschild symbol, right? And the United Nations actually came here this year to talk to the schools, right? To give them some kind of support. And when they came here, I realized, it's because they're implementing their agenda broader and broader. So even a little town like this is being included. And in that, they're indoctrinating the schools with various things. And now my sons are in 7th grade, and in the 7th grade, we're in the car together one day, and we're talking, and my sons are very bright, and so there was some advertisement we saw, and I was talking to them. I said they're trying to make you ashamed for being heterosexual. Now, I talk to my sons about everything, and my sons knew all these other terms: homosexual, transgender, transvestite, everything. And I said this to them, and they said, Dad, what is heterosexual? They didn't know what that was. Right? Now, my sons are straight A students. They're smart kids, and they're very aware. They're conscious. But it's in their school. Everything else is being discussed. So naturally, when you're in school, you're more prone to be kind of tuned into that. And they didn't know what that was for. I mean, it just took them a second. And I told them, I'm like, "Are you kidding?" I thought they were just joking with me because they're funny too, but but they really didn't know. They didn't know. So that's how much they indoctrinate. They're actually making the perversion what's natural.
Yeah. I would say we have quite a range of topics today.
Well, I think too, we really came in with the thunder today, going for full on cannibalism. I think I think the social media policy is we got to make sure we don't let the bad guys implement that one.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we need to reinstitute it so that their energy can be back. We send them
integrated, right? Yeah, that would be something. That would be something. Hey, Tui,
I coming for dinner.
Sorry, go ahead.
Tui, so I have a question. So you were talking a little bit about your role, as far as going out and physically identifying these other original indigenous tribes, right? So I want you to kind of expound on that a little bit, and I also have a follow-up question, but I'm going to tell you ahead of time, is because I was contacted. I've been contacted by some other tribal leaders, and I know one of them they claim that the live birth certificates, that they're kind of the source, right? That they print those up. They also talked about the original language of Camelot, and that they were the one they were experts in that and kind of creating these shield symbols, these crests, in line with the actual order of the planet, and kind of undoing these spells that they put on different cultures, I guess, using something like that. And I was also contacted by and that group was out of Australia, I believe. Yeah, so I think there were something indigenous there. I was also contacted by a young lady who said that she's basically been tested with her DNA to be the original, or she's the true chief of the Cherokee Indian. And I believe that I think that she was kind of claiming that. Now she was not. I mean, there's the Amexum here in the United States that are kind of look like they're that look African American or black, but she's kind of in that range, but not red per se. So I don't know if the actual color matters, but I just wanted to mention it to you because I'm curious, what their roles might be as well, or even if just from based on the tradition or the legends.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, start with your role.
Oh, yeah. So my role right now is similar to yours at this moment, because as time moves forward, the role changes, and I'll be able to understand that after I do what I'm supposed to do, and then the first thing that I have to do is reach out to you to get the sovereignty. But everyone that has the same role as we do will understand what they will. It's an innate understanding, even if they didn't learn it from anywhere, because it will be part of the soul agreement. They will have the innate understanding of what Kim and the Manna World Holding Trust means. And so that's the first sign that they are part of the soul group of guardians that are supposed to be involved and to do their own part. And so if they understand and if they are in contact, they're actually part of it. And so to be able to express their soul agreement, they have to reach out to you, and it will add value to the purpose of this change as a whole. And then they will be, from there they'll be able to understand what's the next step that they have to follow. This they cannot you cannot jump right to it goes step by step, because as you go along, as you broaden the connection, people will just people who are supposed to be involved will just come in and you'll get into contact. I'm sure you are already experiencing that, and all the synchronicity that comes with it. And so my role is to do exactly what I'm doing right now, to reach out and from my point of view, the people that I represent and the land that I represent and the part of the planet that I represent, or the part of the gate, the soul gate that I represent, is to acknowledge and let everyone knows if let everyone knows about the change, about Kim, about the trust, and about what is happening, and let everyone knows about if I can, about the 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 old system that's been ruling for almost more than 26,000 years, and to be able to do that. And as I move along, I can explain. But the future to me is because from where I come from, we don't have what you have, like what we have, what we have here is what you call time. We see things on the now point, and then we'll be able to understand the probability of the future. So that's how the AI works. If you do something now, the AI will understand the different probabilities and the most likely a path that will take according to the connection that we're having right now. And so if they are reaching out to you and they are not so vocal about it, and then they are waiting. So they're waiting for what I call a spark. So because you asked me for what my role is, if you look at the whole, look at everything as a whole, as a um, like an engine, it needs that spark of that plug. Yeah.
I
So
think we move beyond the spark.
yes.
I think
So that's my role. I'm actually called. I've never said this to anyone. I am actually called an initiator. So I have to just being here talking with you, I'll be able to initiate some of those areas that have been on hold right now, or stuck right now. And so the whole of my tribes here in the Pacific, that's what we have to do in this. We have to be involved, and we have to be loud about it. And so as soon as I'm reaching out to you, I don't have to. I mean, Kim, all she has to do is just to know that I'm here. That's all. That's all she has to do. That's enough for me. If she knows that I'm here and I'm fulfilling the agreement physically that I have to, the AI will understand the probability, and then it will walk in, and it will understand that the choices from our involvement and the people that are listening, and to the projects that are ready to be put on, will be able to, the AI will understand where everything is on, because that's the game of the whole 26,000 years, is to do with the future. And so these people that are coming from the future, that the people are thinking that they are aliens or from other dimensional timelines or other extraterrestrial and other terrestrial. They're just from here, but from a different time, from a different future. So they're coming back into the past, and they're readjusting the ley lines and the energies of the planet to be able to control the future of everyone, to be able to and they implement the moon, take away, they adjusted the moon, and there were two moons, and then they take away one, and then they adjust the surface of the planet. The technologies in those days, they have, there'll be people discovering crystals all over the planet, cavern systems and crystals, and sometimes they don't understand why the crystals are there. These big chunks of big rocks of crystals, but they don't understand. They don't know that the whole planet is almost like how you have a circuit board, where you can adjust and you adjust how the flow of current or electricity on a circuit board. So this is the reason why the 12 tribes were designed and were put into place to be able to. So their life force has to be is part of their guardians of this circuit area, this energy that the ley line controls. And so I know Kim understands about this because that's one of the reasons why she wants the monorail to be built so that it will be able to reorganize the circuit of the planet and be able to bring back those powerful and then
You're
sorry,
saying circuit. The whole planet is a circuit breaker.
board circuit. It's like a circuit board.
Soccer ball.
Oh, soccer ball. Soccer ball. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I understood you. No,
Circuit
board, right?
Circuit board.
Yes, like yeah.
Yeah, you're okay. I just
So
want to make sure people understand you, Tui. Go ahead.
and so yes, I mean, in between those years, they've been involved. They've been coming in, trying to reorganize, trying to readjust the circuit of the planet, and try to implement all these energies so they can guide the future to this probability or the future to that probability. And so, and some of them don't even know that there's an agreement that we, the Ra Collective, had. And when the Ra Collective agreement comes into place, it will just work on its own because we were one of the original beings, or if you would say, that were asked to come and help and to readjust the planet and to be able to collect the whole asset, or what you call, or the rocks and all, every atoms on the planet right now, and to be able to that's the reason why all this state of a war that was happening in commerce, in war, as in nations against nation, and all this for thousands of years in a state of emergency. And so
Right.
that agreement is still binding. And now that I'm reaching out to Kim, so I just we're trying to actually reorganize that so it can and make it null and void, so that everything will be able to spiritually flow, spiritually go in harmony with the changes of the planet. Um, so where like physically to create awareness and put it up on, and then tell everyone to do the same thing to reclaim the sovereignty on all the native tribes on the planet, whether you're from Europe or whether you're from from the States, and everyone there, they have to put down. That's why I was asking you, Ten, about if if Trump had actually recognized Kim as a sovereign entity on her own, and the trust, because it's very important, because all these agreements are spiritually binded if they are not revoked, and it can actually keep perpetuating. Even though people may think they would be free, they will be like it won't go as it's supposed to be, as a flow. And so that's like for now. Just by talking about that, I've like I'm fulfilling my role as just to initiator, and then just to start it up, and then just get people awareness, and then and my people are willing to actually do that, and we'll our newspapers are the first newspapers in the world, so it's the first newspaper that ever to be printed before anyone else in the world. So as soon as we get our sovereignty, that's the first place we're gonna every countries in the world, they receive our newspaper in time through the website, through that, because we have the first what you call it, the deadline, and we will make sure that everyone will see that and question it. Oh, what is this? What's happening here? And then get it into the awareness, and because it's already ready. I mean, the spiritual essence inside everyone in the world right now is ready, but only the physical part of the illusion outside of them is actually taking the awareness and putting it somewhere else, or or they're focusing on some other things that they used to do. And so one of my role is to do that. And by doing this, I'll be able to collect the rest of the 5 or the rest of the 4 or the rest of the 100 and what you have in the Bible, 144 thousand of how, which is just a metaphor of what's happening right now. From 12,000 from every,
right?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
144, the 12,000 12,000 of the DNA and expression from all the 12 tribes all over the planet, for all those 5 expression that I was talking about. Because I don't like talking about colors because of how people value color in when we talk about tribes or people. We say black and we say white, and we use it in a way that, but it's just word. It's just how we value that illusion. You interpret it in any way you want, and then you try to weaponize it, or you try to hurt people with it. It totally depends on you, the awareness within you, and how you value the illusions that you create. And but yeah,
Right.
the the point is really simple. The most important thing is that essence within you. It has to come out, and to be responsible unto itself, and to self-realize the sovereignty that it has, and to be able to be responsible on the choices that you create outside of you. And so these are the lessons that people will have to or self-realize. And if I can accelerate that, or like you guys are already doing, already initiating it, and if I am involved, and I'll be able to help get that awareness much more, or carry more weight, so that people so that the attention can be, they can get attention from people. Then that's exactly what we're intending to do.
Well, if you don't mind me just chiming in here on what you just said, because um, based on your description, I would say uh, this goes back to um, the responsibility of everybody listening, the responsibility of everybody who hears this, the responsibility of everyone who feels inspired, ignited within themselves to respond. Now, that is this divine spark that Tui is describing, right? And this spark, right, is something that the way that, you know, Tui and I were talking about this yesterday, that, with a chiropractic, you're putting the spine in alignment, right? Or in the spine just being the uh, the structure that is designed to act as a passageway for the nervous system to travel down the body from the brain. So essentially, the brain, the substance being, now, if you look at the brain as kind of the abstract ultimate source substance limits of bounds of all that you are, all of your imagination, it's undefined and unclarified. It's in this incredible state manifested only in your thoughts. And for that to come down into your body and reflect in your body, everything needs to be in alignment. So before your nervous system can even be in alignment, your spine has to be. So Tui's talking about getting the tribes in alignment, so to speak, so that everybody, so the communication can go out clearly. We're all in the body of humanity, so to speak. The greater body can function and heal itself, right? Is
Yes,
that's how it
indeed.
works, right? Okay.
That's indeed.
Now,
And
so
and
now that
yeah. Sorry, yeah.
no,
Go
go ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, so now those individuals who are on this call right now, and everybody who listens to this, I want you to consider yourself a part of that body, right? Because they are part of that body, and because you're a part of that greater body of humanity, you have a natural function. Now, part of that function is to set off that spark and communicate with others, and make sure that you repeat this, because Tui's got a job to do. I mean, he's got a job to do, and he's got to find these other people. Now, it's not by accident that he reached out to get here today, and he's been with us, and obviously, you can tell just when we talk, it's like it's just like we're old friends, like we're just getting to know each other again. The same way
Indeed.
you would with somebody that you spent a lot of your life with, when you go back to see them again, you're just rehashing old times. So that's really the moment we're in. I think it's important that everybody feels and recognizes that you're part of that that you're part of that body, and as part of that body, everybody in the body is expected to play their role. And if you heard this message, I'm sorry, but you're charged, right? Because that's what happens with a circuit board. Everything has to be charged, and if one circuit is out of alignment, the whole message gets messed up. So, am
That's
I
true.
getting that right? I want to make sure I'm in alignment with you. Is that right?
Anyway, I muted him because we got the chickens also volunteering to be part of the body.
Sorry.
No.
So sorry. Yeah, they're just. I guess they're complaining about something. Yeah, but I can't say it I can't say it any better. I can't say that any better. How you just put it in that way. Like I was talking to you about how I'm a chiropractor, natural healer here in Fiji, and I do that just by realigning people, and all I do I cause um, I move the bones like supplication, like just move them. And the most amazing thing about it is the body knows what to do on its own.
Yep.
It has its own intelligence, and then all it does, it just recorrect itself. So from a state of injury where it couldn't do that on its own with all the muscles that subconsciously control. And when I do that supplication, I just tell the body, "Hey, here, this is the problem." We and in it will realize itself. So doing this, understanding the whole world is it acts the same, and all these problems that start happening right now are just supplication of how we learn from it and we realign ourselves. And so if there's something that needs to be addressed or needs to be aligned, I mean that's the real reason why I'm reaching out to Kim, because I saw that there's a really weak um, um, communication between the people and between the governments and between all over the world, and people don't know what's actually happening, and so that's why it's really slow the how it's going. But to be able to come in and then just like just fulfilling my soul agreement just to help her, and because she needs a lot of help. There's a lot of I mean, there's 9 billion, almost 9 billion of us in the planet, and it's just a few people, and I know that the body will do this on its own because that's how the whole thing works. But just to be there, just to be here and fulfilling it gives like fulfilling the soul. It gives that feeling of fulfillment and joy to be able to do that. And I can put it in any other like in any other way. Just like the body, we're just like that. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, man, I hear you.
Well, just another point. We're at 3 hours plus 12 minutes after, so we should try and wind it down. Although this is a very fascinating topic, we're right on about getting everybody in motion to work on this and taking your chance to be a spark and sharing the video, giving a like. How many likes do we have today? Yeah, we're at 63 likes. Well, that's good. I think we're up to 140 people at one time viewing. We're at 93. So once we get longer, the viewership tends to drop off a bit, but that's okay. People have things that they must do, but we should realize that we must take action. This is part of what we're doing. So please subscribe, like, make comments, and share this link. Copy it and paste it. Take the few minutes of time to get this onto your timeline of your Facebook or any of your social media, Twitter or anything, and ask people to view it and to subscribe and to share. And we're gonna be back tomorrow on today is T-2 in our 2-week countdown. So we'll be at T-1 tomorrow.
Thank you.
Any last words, or we're good to go?
Well, I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank you, Dan, and I want to thank everyone on the live chat, everyone that are listening in live. I like to thank, just like to thank Kim and the team for what you guys are doing. I know in the future this will become more clearer, and I would like to thank the people that will watch this in the future, or will watch this later, or will come across this in the future. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming here and visiting this video and watching it. To now, if you're listening to me, then that means you've reached the end. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Yes, thanks,
Dewey.
Thanks, Tank, for joining, and thanks, Dewey. Thanks everyone for watching. Until tomorrow, we will catch you.
Thanks, Dan. All right, later.